We're waiting for one more.
Yeah, it looks like Terry's about to join. Hang on one sec.
Good evening, everybody.
Hey, Kevin, you back home?
Yeah,
All right.
back home. Kind of nice.
Yeah, I bet. There he is. All right. Are you ready, Preston? Pam?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. Since we're a few minutes after, I will go ahead and call the regular town council meeting, Ridgway Town Council meeting of Wednesday, April 14, 2021 to order, and ask for, actually before the roll call, we have to have a oath of office given to the 3 newly elected councilors, Angela Farrelly, Beth Lakin, and Russ Meyer.
Right. So I would ask that Angela, Beth, and Russ raise your right hand, and you're going to repeat after me. I state your name.
I,
Angela Farrelly,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support
that I will support
the Constitution
the
the
Constitution
Constitution
of the United States
of the
of the
United
United
States
States
and of the state of Colorado,
and of the state of Colorado,
and faithfully perform
and
and
faithfully
faithfully
perform
perform
the duties of the office
the duties of
duties
the
of the office
of town councilor,
of town councilor,
upon which
upon which
I am about to enter.
I am about to enter.
enter.
Okay.
Congratulations.
I have to
Welcome
say,
back
I thought
aboard.
like 4 times, am I raising my right hand? Because my image is being blurred and yours was like straight on, and I'm like, what's happening?
Zoom. Well, maybe we can talk about it later. Maybe next month we can go back in person. That would be cool. That'd be amazing. All right. So yes, now I will call the official meeting to order and ask for a roll call, please.
Council members Farrelly,
Present.
Gramley,
I'm here.
Lakin,
Present.
Meyer,
Here.
Schuyler,
Here.
Mayor Clark.
Here. All right, we are one short, and we'll talk later about filling the vacancy for that 7th seat. But in the meantime, are there any additions or deletions to the agenda?
Yes, sir. It's Preston. Mayor, you already kind of just mentioned it, but I'd like to request a discussion at the towards the end of the meeting before executive session regarding returning to in-person meetings.
Okay. And anything else? Pam, anything?
I do not.
Okay. I have one thing to remove. The item number 16, the resolution number 2106, opposing trapping and killing of cars, bobcats, and lynx. That issue is kind of moot for the time being. CPW met with a bunch of people who had written resolutions and an organized group that was
Earbuds.
being advocates on this issue, and they made a ruling and had apparently even had a legal ruling saying that they were sticking to Amendment 14. So it's kind of a no issue at this point. So please strike item number 16 from the agenda. All right, so if there isn't any other additional additions or deletions to the agenda, brings us to the adoption of the consent calendar. Is there anything on there anybody wants to pull off? I'd like to just mention that the proclamation declaring May 2021 as Mental Health Awareness Month, I didn't want that to be to carry any less weight by being on the consent calendar. I think it's an incredibly important issue right now. I think mental health issues surrounding COVID and the pandemic and our isolation due to all that is going to linger for years. I saw a really interesting Zoom call the other day with a bunch of students from Ridgway School talking about the impacts to their mental health of the last year. So I just want to make sure that I acknowledge that making this proclamation declaring May 2021 as Mental Health Awareness Month is really critical. It's really important, and we should all do what we can to raise awareness around the importance of mental health in our community. So anything else anybody want to pull off?
No, I move we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Let's see, did I hear Terry's voice first? I think I did. Motion's been made and seconded. Could we have a roll call vote, please?
Councillors Farrelly,
Aye.
Grambly,
Aye.
Lakin,
Aye.
Meyer,
Aye.
Schuyler.
Aye.
All right, thank you, everybody. Next up on the agenda, item number 7 is something I'm really proud that we're doing today, and it's a proclamation honoring Eric Johnson for his years of service to the town of Ridgway. Anytime somebody serves in public service like this for 18 years, especially in a position like town councilor where you're certainly in the crosshairs sometimes, it really deserves some extra recognition, I believe. So we not only have this proclamation that I will read, but we also have a plaque on the way to honor Eric for his years of service. I believe, Eric, you're on the call.
I am.
Welcome. How's it feel
Thank
to
you.
be in the audience for the first time in 18 years?
It's a little strange,
I
actually.
bet.
I kept waiting to hear my name at the roll call.
I'm surprised I didn't hear an I anyway. Well, I'm going to read this because I think we just really need to recognize service. And I know for my part, having been on here even a little bit longer, it's been a joy. It was an incredible joy working with you. You were a wonderfully conscientious, attentive, and totally engaged member of town council for all your years. And it's going to be tough going on without you, quite honestly. So I'm going to read this. A proclamation honoring Eric Johnson for his years of service to the town of Ridgway. Whereas Eric Johnson has served honorably for 18 years on the Ridgway Town Council, first elected by Ridgway voters in 2003. And whereas Eric served as mayor pro tem for many years of his term of office and has provided exemplary governance, guidance, and direction on the town's vision and public work. And whereas Eric brought a proven and applied understanding of local government policy development, the need for thorough, comprehensive, and analytical information for good decision-making, and a commitment to performance assessment to fully measure the efficiency and effectiveness of town resource allocation. And whereas Eric has been a strong proponent of the town's economic stability, fiscal responsibility, economic development, and has been a strong supporter of increasing communication and outreach to town residents and visitors alike. And whereas Eric has served as a strong leader in the town of Ridgway's budgeting, capital improvement planning, and strategic planning efforts. And whereas through Eric's resolve and resiliency, the town of Ridgway has been well led, with Eric tirelessly serving its business owners, guests, and citizens. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the town council of the town of Ridgway, Colorado, by virtue of Councilor Eric Johnson's community involvement, leadership, and dedication, we, the Ridgway Town Council, proclaim April 15, 2021 as Eric Johnson Day in the town of Ridgway, Colorado, and urge all Ridgway citizens to congratulate and thank Eric for his public service. Hear, hear. Thanks, Eric.
Thank
Hooray.
you. You know, I never intended to serve 18 years, but it was like every time there was a project that rolled around, it was like, well, I got to see that to the end. Well, I got to see that one to the end. And then it was Lake O, and then it was the downtown streetscape, and then it was Space to Create. I'm hoping that one goes forward even without me sitting there. So yeah, it's been a pleasure. I really have to say that I really enjoyed my time on council. I looked forward to going to council meetings, and can't say I necessarily look forward to all the budget workshops, but it was, you know, it's been good. I just really, I enjoyed myself and was happy to serve.
Well, great. Well, can't thank you enough. They put up a a screen share of the graphic for the plaque that is in the works for you. So you'll have that to remember your years of service with us for. And I can honestly say that the day that we possibly the groundbreaking, but certainly the final celebration for Space to Create, I know that you'll have an invitation to be right up there with us to celebrate the success of that, because you played a big role in that as well.
I'll be happy to be there.
Cool.
Call me if you need me.
Okay, well, we wish you all the best in your retirement from this aspect of your life anyway. I know you wear a lot of other hats, and just I'll look forward to seeing you around town this summer with things opening back up again and vaccines happening.
Yeah. Hopefully a little live music.
Yeah, we're all hoping for that. Definitely.
All right. Take care.
All right.
Thanks,
Thank you
Eric.
again.
You're
Three
welcome.
cheers. Hip, hip, hooray. All righty. That takes us to item number 8, I believe. This is a public hearing, which takes, I'm sorry, I skipped public comments. Don't want to skip that. Is there, we've established time on the agenda every month for the public to address town council on any, regarding any item that's not otherwise on the agenda. Is anybody here tonight that would like to speak to us about an item that's not on the agenda? If you would like to speak, either raise your hand or just go ahead and unmute and identify yourself. Not seeing anybody. I'll give you another minute. Hopefully you know how to unmute if you need to. All right, seeing none, I'm going to move on to item number 8, a public hearing which does require a little bit more formal process. This is an application for restaurant liquor license for Lazy Dog Saloon, applicant Lazy Dog LLC, to operate at 153 North Highway 550, unit number 1. And Pam, this one has your name on it.
Thank you. The town has received an application for a restaurant liquor license from Buddy Young, owner of Lazy Dog Saloon LLC, to license the premise at 153 North Highway 550, Unit 1, to operate an establishment called Lazy Dog Saloon in the building that was formerly licensed as Full Tilt Saloon. The request before the council is to license the facility, the existing patio to the south side of the building, and a new patio on the west side. The applicant is also requesting concurrent review of this license, which requires approval to operate the establishment prior to the receipt of a state-issued liquor license. This means that I've already sent the license and paperwork to the state, and they're already starting their part of the process. I've already performed everything for our side at the local jurisdiction. That is noticing the hearing before the council. That's been published and posted, and the premises have been posted, and all requirements of the license application have already been met. All fees have been paid and all forms have been received.
Okay, great. I think the applicant is on the call here as well on the meeting. And I want to give Mr. Young a chance to add anything if he desires to. Hi, buddy.
Hello, how you doing?
Good. Anything you
no
want to add?
No comments at the time. Just happy to be here and hopefully start a new adventure in the wonderful town of Ridgway.
Cool. Anybody from council have questions for either staff or Mr. Young? Doesn't sound like it. I know for my part, I'm excited to have one of Ridgway's favorite gathering spots open again. That'll be great. Anybody in the audience? I want to open it up for public comments. Anybody in the audience have anything they want to add, make a comment or a question? If you have a question, you need to direct it to council, but that's just the formal process of a public hearing like this. But again, if you have any comments about this application, please either raise your hand or just unmute yourself and go ahead and identify yourself, give your address, and tell us what's on your mind. All right, again, I'm not seeing anything. Give you one more minute.
Buddy, when's the grand opening?
Hopefully mid-May if everything goes smoothly.
All right. And what's on the menu?
Probably pizza, tacos, burgers, lots of appetizers, doing a little bit of everything.
Right on.
All right,
Good
well,
luck.
I'm going to close the public hearing portion of this public hearing, public comment section, and bring it back up here for council to deliberate. Again, if anybody has any other questions or comments, or if somebody's ready to make a motion, go ahead and do that.
I move to approve the restaurant liquor license for Lazy Dog Saloon LLC.
I'll second that.
All right, motion made by Russ, seconded by Beth. Roll call vote, please.
Council members Farrelly,
Aye.
Grambly,
Aye.
Lakin,
Aye.
Meyer,
Aye.
Skylar.
Aye.
All right, there you go. Congratulations and best of luck getting everything up and running. Looking forward
Appreciate
to
it.
looking forward to experiencing it.
Hope to see you all there. Thank you.
Good luck, buddy.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, that brings us to item number 9, award of bid for Heritage Park Improvements Project.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. As you said, this is the award of bid for the Heritage Park Improvements Project. Hopefully you've had a chance to check out the memo. In short, we're seeking a contractor to construct, and many of you know this already, but we're seeking a contractor to construct phases 1 and 2 of the Heritage Park Visitor Center landscape and irrigation improvements. Many of you would recall that we went out to bid for this full scope last spring. At that time, I guess it was a year ago, only one bid came in. It was exorbitant. We were dealing with the pandemic and all the uncertainties that came with it at the time. And the decision was made to hold off on that project. So here we are. We issued the RFB in early March, I believe it was. We've received 3 bids in all. Western States Reclamation Inc. came in at just north of $183,000. Clark & Co. Inc. came in at just north of $88,000, and Rainmaker Inc. came in at about $93,000. Staff reviewed the bids against the review criteria listed in the RFB and is recommending awarding the project to Clark & Co. Inc. out of Grand Junction. They came highly recommended by the references that they provided us and that we checked. And staff feels that they're a good fit to complete the improvements on a really important community project that I think many of us are looking forward to. If awarded, Clark & Company anticipates being able to complete the project by early July, which was in line with the timeline that we had identified in the RFB. Just want to note, you probably saw it in the memo, but Clark was the lowest bid received, but the bid amount falls over the budgeted amount, about $14,000 over the budgeted amount. That said, staff feels comfortable with that and that the general fund can accommodate the increase. And so staff, again, is recommending moving forward with the notice of award on this project. And then it's worth mentioning, we feel that there's potential to reduce some costs in some areas based on how the bid came in. So there's some optimism there for some savings, but that remains to be seen. So happy to answer any questions.
Great, thanks, Preston. Anybody on council have questions or comments? I'm
It's
excited.
amazing that we can get this done so fast. That's incredible.
I'm excited to see this getting underway. Anybody in the audience have any comments or questions?
Mayor, I see Deidre here. I don't want to put her on the spot, but maybe she has some remarks here. I know this has been really important to her as well.
Yeah, anything you want to add, Deidre?
No, I think
Preston covered it well. I'm excited to see the rest of phase 1 and phase 2 happen. Of course, it isn't all of what we have slated for that Heritage Park Improvements project, all the many different pieces that I think council is aware of. This is just the landscaping and irrigation part. So there'll be landscaping around the visitor center and then irrigation and landscaping along Highway 62. So hopefully it will look a lot nicer by the time this piece gets finished. But we'll still be missing many other pieces that we'll have to find funding for. So that's it.
Thanks, Deidre. Yeah, I agree that the main thing I'm looking forward to out of this is just that the site's going to look a whole lot more presentable and less sort of neglected.
Yeah.
So it's really key. Get some greenery in there and trees and shrubs, and there'll also be some new signage. I'm excited about that as well. So good stuff. Any other comments, questions from council or the audience? All right, somebody want to make a motion to
I move to issue notice of award for the Heritage Park Improvements Project to Clark and Company, Inc. as presented.
Second.
Great, thank you. Motion's made by Russ, seconded by Angela. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Council members Farrelly,
Aye.
Grambly.
Aye.
Lakin,
Aye.
Meyer,
Aye.
Skylar,
Aye.
Right. Right along, that's great. Excited to see that get underway. That takes us to item number 10, discussion and direction on design for Amelia Street project. This one has Joanne's name on it, town engineer, and there's a PowerPoint associated with this. Take it away, Joanne.
I'm going to let Ron do it.
Okay.
It's mostly his work.
Okay.
Okay, when we started the project, we kind of met with the town and decided what we were trying to identify the scope. So we identified the scope as being from County Road 5 at the south end and extend that across the highway north to the north end of the 8th subdivision for the design scope area. And generally given the directive to design as much curb gutter, sidewalk, and parking as possible or as practical. Next slide, please. The work completed to date is we hired a surveyor to come in and do a topographic survey, locate all the utilities and all the improvements, and do an ownership mapping so we knew exactly where the right-of-ways and private property were at. Then we took that information, created a preliminary model, electronic model with all of that shown, and did some preliminary alignments and to try and see what was out there and exactly what kind of encroachments we had. Next slide. So the challenges we see are theoretically, we have a 70-foot right-of-way out there. However, that varies. There was 40 feet to the east and basically 30 feet to the west. Some of the encroachments are private property improvements. More importantly, are the CDOT and school embankment encroachments, where the school and CDOT are higher in elevation than the street. So the elevation difference is actually occurring in the street right away. The cross slope is generally west to east. One of the major drainage problems is the road was constructed like a county road where runoff basically goes to each side of the road, which by extension goes out into private property, where a city street is typically from private property, it drains towards the street. We try to gather that at the curb and gutter and then direct it at the curb and gutter. If we do sidewalk, we're going to have some ADA constraints that we'll have to work around and redo. And the intent is to try to use as much of the existing improvements, the existing curb and gutter and sidewalk that's out there as possible. Next slide. So with a 70-foot right-of-way, we're not,
Yeah, next slide.
there we go. Oh, not yet.
Sorry, hang on. Technical difficulties.
Buttons. So
Thank you.
assuming we have a 70-foot right-of-way, typically what we try to do is put driving lanes at about 10 to 12 foot wide. More towards the 12-foot wide if you have buses and trucks that are going to be using the area. If it's just cars, then you can slip by with 10-foot driving lanes. Curb and gutter, we usually design to 2 to 2.5. If there's parallel parking, we allocate about an 8-foot wide area for that. If there's diagonal parking, we need about 19 to 20 feet, depending on what the angle of the parking. And then for sidewalk, we need 5 to 8 feet, depending on what we decide as a width for the sidewalk. So just taking that and using 2 12-foot lanes, curb and gutter at 2 foot, parallel parking both sides, and 5-foot walk, not counting green space and transition, elevation transition space, we're taking up 54 feet of the right-of-way. Next slide, please. This is a picture looking from the north end towards the south end. The right-of-way, the center of the right-of-way is just at the right side of the edge of the road. The right side of the right-of-way itself is up there by the CDOT barn. So you can see the encroachment, the elevation difference embankment is taking up about half of the right-of-way. The right-of-way on the left side is just right there, almost at the edge of the shrubbery. So the road has been pushed hard to the left side, and thereby, if we put curb gutter and sidewalks on things, we're looking at retaining walls on the east side, even if we use the current alignment. If we move the alignment centered on the right-of-way, then we're talking massive retaining walls to hold CDOT and the parking lot of the school up. Next slide, please. Private property encroachments. This is down by Elizabeth Street. Some people have built some fences out and done some shrubbery and landscaping out in the right-of-way, just as a few. Next slide. This is, I'm standing on the right-of-way line. This is down by County Road 5, and dead ahead is the Cottonwood Creek culvert, and it basically exits, the head wall of that is right on the right-of-way line on both sides of the road. So that forces any improvements we would make to move on, at least the improvements on the east side, say if there were sidewalk and curb and gutter, the road would have to move to the west to accommodate that. Next slide, please. Most all of the improvements on the east side are lower than the street, some more significant than others, but any flow water captured in the curb gutter in the sidewalk area that would exceed what that could carry spills over and goes down into the private property. Next slide, please. This is an example of a driveway. This is just south of Sherman Street. Where I'm standing is the back of the sidewalk, and there's about about 1.5 inches of fall from my feet out to what it'd be the top of curb. And then there's another inch of flow line out to the, that's held into the curb gutter section. So any water at this area will spill over and goes down into the driveway and goes into the private property, into their garage. Unfortunately, this is one of those areas where there isn't much we can do with the design to make it improve it. This is about as best as we could get.
We do have an inlet on either side of the driveway there to try to take as much water away from that driveway as possible.
Next slide, please. This is north, more towards Clinton. And it also drains, even though there are no sidewalks or curb and gutter, it also drains towards the private property. If the right-of-way line, which is just about where the vegetation stops, is about the low spot also where the flow line is. And if we were to design this as a steady street, that would be the top back of sidewalk. And then you would have to come down the depth of the curb and gutter. If we excavate to make drainage with curb gutter and sidewalk work there, where I'm standing out in the street would need to be cut about a foot in finished elevation. But when you cut a foot of elevation out of an existing street, to get the structure back into it, you have to completely scrap all the structure that's there, go clear down to sub-base course and start building back up. Next slide, please.
Sorry.
And part of the problems with reshaping profiles of the street is that there are some people that have already developed out to the right-of-ways and sidewalks and the street. And so then you start running into problems with having to modify something somebody's already done in their yard to try and fit a new profile of the curb and gutter. Next slide, please. This is down at Billings by County Road 5. You can see right in the center of the picture is a power pole. And just slightly to the left of that power pole between the bush, I'm standing on the right-of-way line. The center of the right-of-way goes right about where the mailbox is. And the left side of the right-of-way is right at the edge of the gravel on the left side of the picture. And so if we try to put the street again at center line, this driveway would have to have some significant changes to it to allow it to come into a street. Next slide, please.
Can I interrupt and ask a question there?
Sure.
My recollection from years ago is that starting at essentially either where Elizabeth curves around and hits Amelia, or the new Marie Boulevard, is that what it's called? About there, the right-of-way, that half of the right-of-way, we don't even own. Am I wrong there, Joanne?
No, I think we do own it. We got part of the right of way with the Marie Scott subdivision, or the original split of the McCullough Minor.
Uh-huh.
We got the right of way on that part, and then we got the right of way with Marie Scott. And Billings was part of a building permit. Pam's finding the box that's in. And then on the other side of County Road 5, we got it when Swede's estate got done.
Okay, so over the years, that's all been rectified, even though
Yeah.
it's still not developed. Obviously.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't done anything to make it fit, but
Right.
we do have.
We do
the
finally
right-
own it.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. Good to know. Thank you.
Next slide, please. if we do sidewalks and improvements, we're going to have to do the ADA improvements. Here, the curb goes right past the end of the sidewalk and is adjacent to the sidewalk that goes up Marie Street. So we'd have to figure out some way of making the ADA compliant on the sidewalks. Next slide, please. This is a Google Earth, and what we tried to do here was put a red line on that right of way on the west side to show approximately where it's at through the length of the project. There is a slight angle point in the west side of the Amelia Street, right at Moffett Street, where it jogs and gets back on a 16th line. From Moffett Street to basically Otto Street, follows the original town plat line. Next slide, please. So once we developed kind of a model, I started putting together a template that would somewhat fit. And what I used as an assumption, again, was two 12-foot drive lanes, curb and gutter on either side, except where the valley pan already exists. And then adding 5-foot walks right to the back of the sidewalk to see where that was fitting. What we really couldn't address, again, are the drainage problems created by the street being higher than the properties on the properties adjoining on the east side. Getting some sidewalk on the north side of 62, getting sidewalk on the west side between 62 and Hyde, sidewalks on the east side of east and south of Hyde Street, and Moffett, anything south of Moffett and anything north of Clinton. And then I left that there would be no on-street parking to fit that template in. Next slide, please. So as a result of the survey and the property line, this is a typical section down at the school. In plan view is the bottom showing the contours coming off of the parking lot. Clinton Street is the street that goes towards the bottom with the alley in between. The teacherage is the road taking off at an angle, about a 45-degree angle off to at the right side. At the top is if you cut a section line through that, the green line being the existing profile and the black line being a line that I would put the template on to get the sidewalk on the west side. I would need to build a retaining wall. And so sidewalk basically generically on the west side between the teacherage and the highway is relatively expensive to fit it onto the existing template. Next slide, please. Did the same thing here. This is right at CDOT, cross-section tap, and you can see the contours coming down from the private property, from the CDOT yard. The top of the right-of-way is about at the crest or break at the top. So again, putting a sidewalk on this west side here would require a retaining wall to make that fit. Then the next slide, please. This is again, plan view with a section line down across from Billings at the La Ranch. The kind of diagonal line dash cyan line is the culvert for Cottonwood Creek. And you can see where the right-of-way is and that the road would fit, but we'd have to do some shaping on the west side to get the curb and gutter and sidewalk in. Okay, next slide, please. So basically where we're at is we kind of need some direction as to what kind of options you would like. I started off with just basically paving in between the existing curb and gutter and adding valley pan to keep a 24-foot wide asphalt. And for that, I think we were around the 20,000 or 200,000. Yeah, 200,000 range
That's 7 blocks.
for 7 blocks. 500 to 600,000 is what that would cost. Then adding to that, if we put curb and gutter on there, that would be another 100 to 200,000 on top of the 5 to 600,000. Then if we add sidewalks and deal with all the ADA improvements, we would need to add probably another 200,000 to the project. If we lower the street to keep the street drainage in the street, we'd need to add about $1 million to $1.5 million because we would lose all of the structure and have to basically start from the bottom and come up with all new gravels. If we add width for on-street parking, we'd also need to add about another $1 million. So because of the additional cuts that would need being on the either side, the widening of the right of way. So basically these again are ballpark numbers. They're thumbnail long before COVID. So we're not sure what the reactions would be if this were bid tomorrow, but hopefully we're still a long ways from bidding this tomorrow. But we kind of need your input. Start it off with questions and comments, and then give us some directions as to what you'd like to do for the next steps.
Thanks, Ron. That was really well done. And I'm just sitting here thinking this project is a case study for the old phrase, the devil's in the details.
Yes.
Man, I actually had no idea. I knew that we had some right-of-way challenges on the south side of 62, but I wasn't aware that the right-of-way on the north side was as far up the steep embankment there by the CDOT yard and the school. Those kind of things just create obviously huge headaches. So I guess I'll open it up. Anybody on council have comments or questions? Let's start with questions, and then we can start trying to come up with some suggestions to answer these options. Does anybody not understand?
This is Terry. I'm a spreadsheet guy, so I would be able to weigh in better if I saw these options sort of outlined in a series of columns in a spreadsheet as to which options are highly recommended, which are more optional with the associated prices, just to kind of see how it flows.
Okay, we can probably try and get these guys to supply something like that. Anybody else?
Do we have any ideas about like the hydrology with the water flow and stuff going on to private land if we don't just lower the elevation of the street, like how much water that is? Because we don't want to like ruin someone's foundation or something. I know that the road already, there's probably already drainage happening from the road onto private property, just due to the natural grade anyway. But how much would we be increasing that diversion of water versus what's currently in existence?
I think a lot of the water is getting there already.
Mm-hmm.
But we do have, from the stormwater master plan, we do have some numbers. Anything you pave is going to increase the numbers because you get more faster runoff.
Right.
Without the permeability. But if we're gonna, that we can add that if we put together a spreadsheet for everybody. I don't have that at my fingers.
Oh, and I can say that street has always had huge issues as the presentation pointed out with drainage to the east off of a street that's higher than all the neighboring properties. I actually, more than 35 years ago, lived in a rental house that's long since been scraped off, and it was sort of between the Ridgway Integrated Medicine building and the house that's directly south of that. And the house is directly south has this steep driveway off of Amelia, and our front yard was like right probably about where that driveway was. And when we got torrential rainstorms, the water would rush down 62 off Ridgway Hill and come around the corner, and we'd have to basically sandbag to keep the water from basically filling our living room. So it's been an issue for close to 40 years, probably more than 40 years. And my hope would be that if we could do curb and gutter, we could probably eliminate at least some of the problem, even without lowering the street a lot, by directing it with a curb to the side streets. But
yeah, with doing curbs and gutters and stuff to just direct the water flow, are we just creating that problem somewhere else if we don't do like stormwater drainage or something like that with underground pipes to divert that somewhere else?
my guess is it would feed eventually to our existing, like there's that big ditch just south of the highway that eventually goes to a pipe down to the river. I think we could feed it. Joanne, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we could feed it to our existing stuff that we're doing to deal with stormwater.
The stuff between Sherman and Hyde already has curb gutter, sidewalk, inlets, and a pipe that we'll try to reuse. It's basically everything on either side of that block that has yet to be addressed. The stormwater master plan looked at trying to get more of the water to run down Hyde to Elizabeth so that it wasn't so much trying to get into the system between Hyde and Sherman. That was the preliminary recommendation. That's as far as the master plan went. But I think that then you need to address what's going on at Hyde, because the properties on the south side of Hyde have trouble as it comes around that corner from Amelia to Hyde.
I know it's not the popular opinion because it's an expensive opinion, but part of why we undertook this study was to look at how we could get sidewalks to the elementary school. I mean, as Ridgway looks at sustainability and walkability and wanting to encourage that, and in a world where maybe we get away from a drop-off situation and more walking to school, I know that's further down the price range, but at least on that north side of the highway, that walkability piece is huge beyond just having a curb and gutter. And in some ways that makes it harder because now you've kind of defined the edges of the road for walking. So
when we did the piece on the east side of Amelia by the old grade school, we looked at doing a retaining wall on the west side, and it didn't happen because the funds were too tight.
Right.
But yeah, I think if you're looking to make it more accessible, that's part of the picture.
I just, I worry we're looking at a significant, I mean, it's all big numbers, but, investing a lot of money and still not addressing that walkability and safety, especially for kids, seems like a mistake to me.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree.
I think sidewalks are important.
Yeah.
Especially near the schools.
Yeah, I mean, I think that sidewalks and would trump like parking and stuff like that. And I think that we really want to try to make this town as walkable as possible.
And in a lot of ways, not having street parking is also a walkability thing. If people are parking in driveways and whatnot, again, it just feeds into do I want to be walking here, or do I want to be wedged between a house and parked cars? Like that's, also not necessarily encouraging of that.
Yeah, I think that there's also some funding options. The Safe Routes to School grant program from CDOT has already paid for some of the sidewalk on either side of the highway on the east side of Amelia. And I think we could probably get some more help from them to extend that. I would hope anyway.
I think there's some multimodal money that's available coming up relatively soon. We turned back either a local agency or Safe Routes to School when we did Amelia the first time because the requirements were so onerous.
Okay, what else?
The only other thing is any improvements that we do, say we do lower the street and resolve some of the drainage, anything we do, because the sidewalk, the existing sidewalk, at least on the east side, is right at property line, to match improvements that people have already made on their own properties, we'd have to get temporary easements from all of the owners. And that starts complicating the project even more so. So, you know, the original scope was to see what can we do inside our existing right-of-way without interfering with people's private property, especially like the retaining wall up on, you know, building a real tall retaining wall to hold CDOT up in the air and keep the school's parking lot where it is. Really does get expensive to do that without impacting what you could probably do if you got back onto private property.
Jake's got his hand up.
Jake, go ahead.
Hey there, just a note, as a resident that lives in this area, something to consider in the planning process might be some speed control. A lot of vehicles coming down from Elk Meadows, I'm seeing are going 40 miles an hour plus and routinely blow through the stop sign at Moffett. So that would just be something to consider as well as your planning.
That's always an issue for sure.
Ron just said, leave the washboard.
Well, but then there's the portion of the population that believes if you drive faster, you just bounce off the top of their washboards. Oh, it's always something. Other comments, questions?
Would it be feasible to just look at doing sidewalk on maybe one side of the street and like making use of what's there between Marie and Hyde? Because there's already sidewalk there on the west side. And then see if there's a way to get maybe a little bit more without going all the way to County Road 5 and then switch over to the east. Because there's existing there at Hyde on the east side, and then on the north side, there's all along the east, it looks like there's sidewalk all the way to the end. If we could get it another block down on the east side, could we just look at doing something like that and then putting in curb and gutter as we could around that to help that? And also I have a question on the reducing the road bed. Is that only on the north side or is that the entire road where we would need to reduce the elevation of the road bed?
It'd be the full length of the project.
Okay. That seems prohibitively expensive, but.
I agree. And I agree with Russ that in order to be able to do this at all and afford to do it, I think we almost have to go with sidewalk on one side as much as possible.
I think having sidewalk is a big deal. It's much, I think in residential areas, a sidewalk on one side, like especially if we're not that busy of a town, we're crossing or whatever, if it's a one-time thing and you can get on sidewalk, I think that's fair.
I do too.
You know, and I think the idea is you just want to make it safe? You know, if you're sending kids walking from the Solar Ranch area, can they get to school in a safe fashion, right? Like where are those options?
I guess the only other question I had is, we had originally stopped this project at County Road 5, but as I keep walking it, I go down to Sabeta, and I'm not sure how much additional that is worth to extend the scope of the project where we get solar ranches, or at least that other access in to solar ranches into the network.
Anybody have any thoughts?
The other thing you might look at is how much value is there going all the way to Yates, to the north line of Yates?
If we stop at the
It's a
Teacher
Ridge Road instead of going.
I definitely think we could stop at the Teacher Ridge Road.
Yeah.
I think that's right.
Yeah. And then again, on that south end, I don't know that it needs to go all the way to County Road 5. It seems like you would be able to want to take care of those people out of La Ranch. And I'm assuming that's the way we would assume the folks would be coming out of Solar Ranch.
I think the majority, I mean, Solar Ranch is going to be split. You're going to have some crossing the bridge at Cottonwood and coming up. That's Moffett there. Is that right?
Yep.
That's, so, and then I don't know how many of them actually come up around the very, I talk about it as being the top of Solar Ranch. So I think it's split, kind of depends on where in Solar Ranch you live.
I'd like to see sidewalk all the way to Solar Ranch on Amelia, because if it was there, people would use it, absolutely. And that end of Solar Ranch, the top end of Solar Ranch is less developed, but it's getting more developed all the time.
I was going to say the same thing. There's a bunch of new houses going in up there now.
So,
I mean, what's the feasibility of like just focusing on sidewalks, curb and gutter, and like not paving the street? Like, I feel like it's more important to get the sidewalks in than.
But I think part of making the sidewalks usable is getting some of that gravel under control. And with the subdivision up on Marie being paved and 62 being paved, I think paving it, we're going to see those sidewalks really clean up and be much more useful, since all the down, I mean, Joanne, correct me if I'm wrong, but all the stuff uphill will be paved and the stuff downhill won't be.
Well, and history-wise, Angela, one of the main reasons we've been talking about this for all these years is that the dust and mag chloride issues on Amelia have been really hard on the neighbors, as much traffic and unfortunately higher speed traffic that road gets, particularly on the south side, sorry, but on both sides with the amount of school traffic and all that. So, to eliminate the dust and the need to mag chloride and have mag chloride dust is one of the main reasons we're talking about this at all. And of course, I totally agree. Sidewalk, curb gutters, equally as important, if not more so. But the dust and the mag chloride issue is very important too. Okay. Sorry, Joanne, if I interrupted you.
No, I probably stuck my hand up. No, one thought is to have walking sidewalk path from Sabeta on the east side, the full length all the way to the school, or at least to the highway, and then move people over to the west side at the bottom of CDOT, even though it requires a retaining wall to get them to the school. If we can keep the pedestrian traffic, say singular, one sidewalk, then that makes the traffic light or our ped light work at the highway. If we put sidewalk on both sides, then my guess is we would have somebody walking on the west side and not paying attention to the crosswalk.
The line of sight is better coming down the hill to have everything on the east side. It gives people just a little more time to slow down.
Right.
And we do right now have a 5-foot walk that runs basically from Hyde to Clinton. And then the kids have to diagonal to get up into the school property.
No, it goes from Sherman.
No, this sidewalk on both on. no.
What I don't understand about what Ron just said is it doesn't make any sense to me to move the sidewalk between 62 north, the school, to the west side, or add it so we have it on both sides for all the reasons you just said. I don't think we need it on the west side. We've already got it on the east side. It's safer for the kids to make that diagonal crossing at Clinton than it is at the highway.
Yeah.
The highway crossing, the ped crossing is on the east side already. So let's get them across the highway on the east side, keep them on the east side all the way to Clinton, and then maybe do something creative in the way of a real formal diagonal crosswalk there at Clinton. I don't think that Clinton Amelia intersection gets near as much traffic. Amelia Street gets a lot of traffic, but I don't think there's a lot of people coming up Amelia all the time. Coming up Clinton, sorry. So I'm back to the point of let's just keep, there's only 2 blocks, or I think there's 2 blocks where the sidewalk is on the west side in Marie Scott, next to Marie Scott subdivision. Everywhere else, let's just keep it on the east. I think that makes good sense.
Where are those iron stairs that come down? Is that across from Charles?
Yes.
Yes.
What about taking the sidewalk right to Charles and then cross them over to that stairway?
That makes sense.
There's 2 pieces. One is we want the kids to use whatever safe infrastructure we give them, rather than if we try to funnel them to the stairs, just thinking about what they're actually going to do. I think this is a conversation when we start talking about what's the best way to get kids up to the school. John, maybe you could broach that with Susan Lacey and see if this school has some thoughts. Because I think it sounds like we're committed to getting kids to the school safely. But we probably should open up that partnership, because I know they're looking at some renovations and changes potentially coming at the elementary school.
Right.
And kind of finding out what they think would work would be helpful.
No, that makes good sense. And to answer your question, Terry, I think let's take the sidewalk as far north as we can. Probably it could end at Charles, but keep it on the east side. Do a crosswalk there by the stairs. But kids flooding to the school and away from the school at the beginning and the end of the day, they're going to use every way depending on where they live. The kids that are coming from the sort of southeast, they're going to want to cross at Clinton and walk in that way. The ones that are coming from the core of town that's to the north are going to come up Charles or Clinton, or probably Charles, and use the stairs. So my point is they're going to use all access points based on where they live. So I think the biggest point we're trying to make here is that we think it makes sense to go ahead and keep the sidewalk on one side of the street and have it be the east side of the street, basically where we're creating new sidewalk. Right?
Except for in that area over at Marie Scott.
Well, it's already there. So that's not new sidewalk. So we wouldn't put any on the east side. We'd still keep it on the west. And that is a little odd where, again, there's going to need to be some diagonal crossing for kids. But I think that's for reasons of cost and being able to do this at all. I think that's what makes the most sense.
Okay, and I guess the only other question I've got is if we do that, just one piece of sidewalk on most sides of the street, and we did the curb and gutter, if we paved the street, what kind of drainage issues? Where are the key drainage issues, and would this accelerate problems in other areas? With drainage?
I think we kind of have the stormwater master plan to fall back on. Am I right, Joanne? We can.
Correct. Yeah, for the most part, if we put curb and gutter along the east side and try to keep the water in the road, we'd need access to people's properties to redo their approaches to their driveways or their houses to get them back to the grade they need to be. If you want to keep the road so that the water flows to private property, that's a different discussion. Most of what you're looking at increasing is just from the hard surfacing.
Right. I'm just trying to make sure we are not causing ourselves any other issues that we then have to jump through a hoop to resolve with drainage going into people's yards and whatnot if we curb and gutter that east side.
I think those are things that as we get into the real nuts and bolts of the design, we need to work through how we're going to get the water to, as much of the water as possible, to stay in the street.
Okay.
And that'll be almost property by property.
Yeah.
Well, is that enough information for you guys?
Thank you, Joanne. That was so helpful. I'm super glad that we, invested in finding out what we were up against here.
I agree. Great
You're
discussion.
welcome. I think the information we have is, it would be good to put it in a table, focus on getting sidewalk on one side. Where it's not there, I think if we could get it a little bit wider, if we're only doing one side, that would be good. And then look at the drainage and see what we can pull off and at least get you some ballpark numbers and options.
Yeah,
Great. Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else on this item? Thanks again. Great discussion. That takes us to item number 11, I believe, resolution number 2105, amending Hartwell Park Performing Arts Stage fee schedule. Preston?
Thank you, Mayor. So last month, you all had a conversation about the fee structure for the Hartwell Park Performing Arts Stage, and you gave staff some direction. Number one, eliminate the stage prep and breakdown fee of $250. And then number two, allows staff the discretion to reduce the permit fee for nonprofit organizations. So based on that, staff has prepared the resolution number 2105 for your consideration.
Okay, any questions, comments from council? You all had a chance to review this?
It does make this a lot more user-friendly to everybody in town. I think this is great.
I agree. Anybody in the audience have comments or questions? We're basically just trying to make it more of a user-friendly process and hopefully encourage more people to use the stage going forward. All right, somebody want to make a motion?
I move to approve resolution number 21-05 according to the amending the Hartwell Park Performing Arts Stage fee schedule.
Second.
All right, made by Russ, seconded by Kevin. Roll call vote, please.
Council members Farrelly,
Aye.
Brambley,
Aye.
Lakin,
Aye.
Meyer,
Aye.
Skylar.
Aye.
Great, thanks, everybody. I think that's a really good move. Right, takes us to item number 12. This is approval of purchase of a used 2012 Challenger/Elgin Badger street sweeper. Pam, are you taking this one?
I am. At the last meeting, council authorized staff to research and receive quotes on the purchase of a used street sweeping vehicle and to use remaining funds that we have in the equipment line items for this fiscal year budget. And Mike found a street sweeper at the exact amount we had left in the budget. We had 95,000 and he found a street sweeper for 94,000. It is a reconditioned 2012 Ellinger Badger sweeper. It's been rebuilt down to the frame and has a new chassis and new side and rear sweepers. It includes delivery, a warranty, and a money-back guarantee. And this is the same street sweeper that we've been renting for use since we've started sweeping the streets. So the town's procurement policy allows the waiver of a formal bid process when quotes yield a better value and cost for the town. And it does, so we can waive having a competitive bidding process, and we are asking the council to do that since we only have one vendor that can successfully furnish the equipment at the price that we have found. So we are asking council to approve this, and there's a proposed motion before you.
Okay, anybody in the audience have questions about this? We've had a lot of discussions about what with the new downtown street project. We've got a lot more paving and sidewalks, and the gravel issue is ongoing. What with all the dirt streets to feed onto the paved streets. So we have been, as Pam said, we've been renting a street sweeper occasionally over the last few years, but it's just not enough. So we finally decided we need our own, and this sounds like an awesome deal. So seeing no other questions from the audience, is anybody on council have comments or questions? And if not, motion?
Mike did it again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just related to our prior discussion about walkability and usability of our streets, like this is something residents have been asking for. Can you make sure you sweep the bike lanes more often? And it gives us the ability to be more nimble.
No, I think it's great.
Thanks, Pam, for sending the pictures.
Yeah, Pam emailed us pictures of a comparable model earlier today.
So if we approve this, how soon would we be able to have it and start cleaning the streets?
Actually, we're already set up. If council approves to wire the money tomorrow, sign the agreement, and they have it done and ready to ship out to us after they receive our payment.
Fantastic.
Wow.
Cool. Well,
I need
we approve the deviation from procurement procedures and waive the formal request process for acquisition of equipment and purchase a 2012 Challenger/Elgin Badger sweeper from Sinclair Equipment Finance LLC in the amount of $94,000 and authorize staff to enter into the purchase agreement.
Second.
I think Russ beat everybody to it. Motion by Beth.
I think so.
Second by Russ. A roll call vote, please.
Councilmembers Farrelly,
Aye.
Ramley,
Aye.
Bacon,
Aye.
Meyer,
Aye.
Schuyler.
Aye.
Okay, that's cool. Please forward on our gratitude to Mike on his amazing skills and talent at finding amazing equipment for such good deals. Very cool.
Radar.
I'll call him right now. He's eagerly awaiting.
Yeah, I'll bet. All right, this takes us to item number, item number 13, review of letters of interest to fill vacancy on town council and action to appoint. I'll have a notice in our packet and several letters of interest. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 letters of interest. I believe at least a couple of the people who wrote letters are here tonight and would be willing to speak to us if we have questions or want them to weigh in. But Pam, do you want to say anything else?
Yeah, I'll review the approach that we undertook last December when Angela was appointed mayor, or if you'd like to do that, you're certainly welcome to do that, Mayor. Yeah, so, staff's recommending the approach described in the memo for evaluating the 4 candidates and then ultimately appointing someone to fill the seat. So 4 steps. Number 1, each candidate can be afforded an opportunity to make some remarks about their interest in filling the seat and then answer any questions council has. Next step, members of the audience could be given an opportunity to comment. Third step, council can discuss the merits of each applicant, or just a motion can be made. And then last step, once a motion's made, regular meeting conduct would apply with a second and then a vote. So that's the approach being proposed.
Great, thanks. It's the pleasure of council. I see Adam Beck on here. I think I saw
Rodney and Michelle are both on too, I think.
Rodney, Michelle.
I don't see Jay unless he's the Kyocera or the Galaxy Cab A.
I don't either. So what do you guys think? You want to just go in the order that they are in the packet? Let's see, are they alphabetical or something?
Yeah, alphabetical on last name.
And let each applicant address this, and we have an opportunity to ask some questions if we want.
Sounds good.
Okay. Adam, you want to go ahead and unmute and introduce yourself?
Yeah, would you like my video on, or?
Why not?
Hi, everybody.
Oh. Hey, Adam.
So I've got my notes on my right hand and I'm kind of my monitors here to my left.
That's okay.
I had been looking at joining town council, I think several years ago, one kind of the first round for, I actually had signatures and the documents in line. Realized I wasn't going to be able to do it with my current workload and kind of how things were changing for me personally in terms of work, not job, but just increased responsibilities. That's remained the same at this point, but it's something now where I'd like to be more a part of our community in terms of a say in not only being able to kind of watch it grow, but also to manage the growth as well. I grew up in Eagle County, so Vale, when it was young, we were the first house built in Eagle Vale. Kind of the same thing in Gypsum and Edwards. We just kept getting pushed out. We remained in those areas, but as a young adult, it was one of those things where you're watching it kind of going, okay, there's some extreme growth happening in Colorado. A lot of it was done very well. Some of it I would have had different comments on how to approach. But, settling here in Ridgway, there's an opportunity where I can serve the community and its residents and participate with my voice in what happens in the town, adhering to our master plan and, interpreting how that's going to roll forward. We're just going to have more pressure. We're going to have more pressure on our water system. It's going to be fun to watch, but I want to be a participant. So, like I said, I have not had any kind of formal positions like this. I've been in the building industry my whole life. I was a lighting designer for 12 years. And now I'm a salesman for the Western Slope for 150 different lines of lights. So we do everything from high-end resi to industrial. But being right here on the highway, it's important for me to kind of see and be a part of how we're doing this. So without repeating myself anymore, I'll kind of yield. If you guys have any questions, let me know.
Okay, great. Thanks, Adam. Nice to put a face to the name. Anybody on council have comments or questions for Adam? I see a hand raised. The Kyocera E6810. Is that Jay? Can you unmute yourself? I'm just wondering if you had a question for Adam, or whether you're just trying to identify yourself. Preston, can you offer to unmute him?
Yeah, I've tried a couple times now.
All right, well, keep trying. We'll take your comment when you can get unmuted. Anybody else in the audience have questions for Adam? If not, we'll give Rodney
I have a quick question. Adam, would you be interested in running for a term after this one-year term?
Absolutely. Yeah, this is be a nice jump in, and if I fit well with everybody and I can show my ability to do my duties, then of course I'd love to stay on the board as long as I can, or the council as long as I can.
Great. All right. Well, thanks, Adam. We may have more questions for you later, but we'll take Rodney next.
Well, it says it's unable to start the video, but can you hear me?
Yep.
Yep.
That's inviting me to start the video again.
There we go.
You got it?
Yep.
Okay. Well, I sent the letter of interest to town council when I noticed that there was an opening, and there's been a little bit of turnover on council recently. We're fortunate that we've had a good council for a long time, and we've had some continuity on there. And I think it's important to have continuity. And I've been involved in civic life around here for 20 years. I got off town council in 2008 or 9 when things got really busy, and I got wound into some other projects. But I have stayed abreast of town business, and I'm generally pretty pleased with and impressed with the direction that the town has been going since my time on town council. And I think we have been very lucky to have a fantastic staff with Joanne and our prior town manager, current town manager, and the rest of our staff. And some of our council people have exercised great foresight, and it seems to me we've got a couple of other good applicants here tonight. But mainly I threw my hat in there because I perceived there was a need for it, and I think that I've got a lot of perspective, having lived here and been involved in a lot of the growth and change that we've seen around here. I've got a perspective on that, and I see the value in and committed to the master plan. And I also think we need to stay flexible and realize that in creating a master plan, we haven't locked ourselves in to anything. We need to stay flexible and keep thinking ahead and looking forward. That's the story. That pretty much summarizes what I said in my letter. If anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Great. Thanks, Rodney. Anybody have any questions for Rodney? Either on council.
Hey, Rodney, I'll kind of ask the same question that Terry asked before. Do you see this as just a one year fill-in type role, or 2 one-term type fill-in, or you think you might want to stick with this for a little bit?
No, I think continuity is important on town council, and that's one of the reasons I've seen some turnover here. We've got a few people who have stuck around for a long, long time and shouldered more than their fair share of the load, and we're lucky to have them because we've had turnover in some of the other seats on the council. So I think it's important to stick around for a while to develop that institutional memory and to preserve the integrity that, the debt that we owe to our citizens from the promises and commitments we've made in the past. We need to keep sight of that stuff. We can't do that if we just keep moving on every 2 years.
Right.
Understood. Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. Thanks, Rodney. We'll Michelle a chance to weigh in.
Thanks, John.
Hi, Michelle.
Hi. You can hear me okay? Video's
Yep.
working?
Yep.
I applied for the vacancy in November when Tessa resigned, and that's when Angela was appointed. And then I didn't take out application for the most recent town council election because I had a lot of things going on personally, but the main one has unfortunately wrapped up recently. And so I feel like I do have time for this commitment. And I also feel like I have experience with town government, as I stated in my letter. Worked with HARC and planning and zoning in Telluride and also in the clerk's office. I think I have really good analytical skills. I am the financial officer at the Z Foundation here in Ridgway, so I can do spreadsheets and budgets and that sort of thing. Very familiar with that, and just interested in participating. I was mostly spurred to apply because I saw that there was a vacant seat and somebody needed to do it. And it's funny how we go into this not knowing who else is going to apply, if they're going to be, qualified applicants or this or that. And it appears that there are once again, but I am willing to take on this commitment if you guys choose to appoint me. So thanks. Are there any questions?
Anybody have questions for Beth?
Someone's going to ask if I'm willing to run again after the 1-year term. And yes, I would be willing to run again after the 1-year term. I'd like to see what this all involves. John said it puts you in the crosshairs, which, I'm okay with. But, interested in what the time commitment is and that sort of thing. But obviously I'm applying because I think that I would enjoy this and be good at it. So it seems that I would then run for the position, if it's working out. I can't say positive for sure, but I don't know that anyone can. Maybe someone that's already done it, like Rodney, can say that he for sure would do it. But having never done it, I would want to leave that open and see, how it goes.
Understood. All right, thanks, Michelle. Anybody have any other questions for Michelle? Anybody in the audience? All right, well, we'll get back to you in a minute. And again, I don't know if Jay is that Kyocera.
No, I'm the Galaxy tab A.
Okay.
Let's see if I can get the video working on this thing. Start video.
I bet Jonah could figure it out, Jay.
There you go.
Yeah, they can figure it out. I can't. Even though that's what I used to do as a civilian, was do computer work. Well, as stated in my letter, my biggest claim to fame or whatever is I'm retired military. Now, I had many and variety of jobs in that, including long-term planning. So the reason I applied for the job was everybody complains about government, but nobody wants to do anything. So I want to do something or see if I can contribute to it and lend my expertise to the things that are going on in our town. My wife and I have lived here for about 2 years. We vacationed here for about 6 or 7. And we just love the place, and I'd like to be able to contribute to making the town grow and get everything going right. And I would, if I was appointed, I would continue to run. In fact, if I don't get appointed, I might try and run anyway. Because like I said, if you're going to complain about government, you need to contribute.
Amen.
Yep.
All right, thanks. Anybody have questions? Any other questions for Jay?
Jay, it was great to see your interest in running for council. was great to see you. Thank you for
Thank
your
you.
service over the past 40 years.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
All right, so now we face a tough task of picking one of these great people to join us on this adventure we're on as Ridgway Town Councilors. Somebody want to weigh in with any thoughts to start out? It's a tough choice.
I know that from my perspective, I really appreciate Michelle's experience with housing issues because that's something that we are really experiencing here. So I think that she can bring a really good breadth of knowledge and, you know, hopefully some ideas about how to deal with our housing issue. So I appreciate that about her expertise.
Okay, good point. Anyone else?
I really appreciated Adam's commitment to our master plan and also his, you know, desire to reach out to the community and use his position as a council member as a way to get to know people and kind of, you know, towards the end he said of his letter that he knows many in the community, but there are many more that he'd like to meet and serve. And that really struck me as something that was really valuable to bring to the community.
Along the same lines, Adam's motivation kind of echoes my motivation for having gotten involved in the council. Not that the others don't as well.
Here. Mm-hmm.
Other thoughts? I mean, I feel like I kind of have to weigh in like I did back in November. I think equity and inclusion is more important than ever these days, and to have a third female on council would be a good thing. Make us even more balanced. So that's one thought that I would throw out. I'm impressed with all the letters, though. I think we couldn't go wrong with any of these folks. And I just want to say again, I thank you all for expressing interest. And even if we don't select you, I would encourage you to pull out a petition to run next year if you still have the interest. So, any other thoughts? Somebody?
Russ, do you have thoughts?
I liked a lot of what I heard from Adam and also from Michelle. Again, there's all of the candidates would be a good add to our council, but I was impressed with both Adam and Michelle, and that's kind of a tough one for me to go with one way or the other on. So, but those are probably my top picks at this point.
Good, it's a tough choice. I do see that the Kyocera with the hand up finally got unmuted. Did you want to make a comment on this issue, whoever that is? Whoever's on the Kyocera E6810. Oh, now he's muted. Okay. Well, I would say that the next step is for somebody to make a motion and see if they get a second, but they suggest somebody. This is a tough choice.
Well, I'll move to approve Adam Beck as to fill the void in council.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a winner, at least so far. We have a motion and a second on the floor. Motion made by Russ, seconded by Beth. Any other discussion? If not, we'll go ahead and have a roll call vote, please.
Council members Farrelly.
Aye.
Grambley.
Aye.
Lakin.
Aye.
Meyer.
Aye.
Schuyler.
Aye.
Okay, well, congratulations, Adam. And again, thank you so much to you, the other three interested parties. We can't thank you enough for caring enough to put your name in the hat. And we're sorry that you weren't selected, but we encourage you to take out a petition next year in March when the annual election rolls around again. And we urge you to be involved in other ways. So thanks again. And Adam, we'll look forward to having you seated with us next month.
Maybe in person even.
Maybe.
Yeah, I'll get my second shot tomorrow, so I'm looking forward to it.
Cool. Have all the rest of us been vaccinated?
Get my second next week.
Very cool.
Yep.
All right. Well, thanks again, everyone. I hope any of you that weren't selected aren't too disappointed, but I do thank you for your interest and hope you'll stay involved in any way you can. So that takes us to item number 14, discussion. Pardon? Item number 14, discussion and direction regarding 2021 event season. Preston.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. So we're looking for some direction from you all as it relates to the upcoming event season, specifically the concert series. At the last policy group meeting, I think that was early April the 1st, there was a really good discussion about outdoor events and how to approach hosting those events in a safe manner, given our current spot on the dial, which we're currently in the best level, I would say, level green. In that level, there are no outdoor event capacity restrictions, and the same goes for level blue. That said, it's really important to note that the dial is going to be retired very soon, maybe in like 2 days, I think, according to Governor Polis, which is interesting and kind of throws a huge curveball as it relates to the conversation. It does sound like the state's going to continue 2 statewide measures, including the mask mandate and then capacity limits for indoor mass gatherings. Tanner Kingery, our awesome public health director, is here with us to help guide us through this conversation. So Mayor, I encourage you to call upon him as we go. I mentioned the last policy group meeting. Russ, I don't want to call you out, but you were the only council member there at that meeting, and I'm sure council would appreciate hearing your perspective on that meeting.
Sure. General consensus, well, not general, a large majority of the folks there were comfortable with the way that things were progressing. According to the recent statistics I've seen from Tanner, I think the counties, at least with first inoculations, we're at like 62%. I'm very encouraged with that. As we continue to get these shots in the arms, and I think the general consensus we heard from the meeting was that people were comfortable with it, with the idea of the outdoor events. There were some folks representing the URA side of things, and their plan, they are looking at an adjusted concert event series, but still putting some on, and but much smaller venues with several controls and regulations that I thought were interesting. And given that, I think the idea was that everybody was pretty comfortable with the idea of having the outdoor events. So we ought to let Tanner throw his bit in, but that was what I gathered from the joint policy meeting. So
Thanks, Russ. Tanner, do you want to weigh in now, or do you want to wait until we've had a chance to discuss it a little bit? Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll just weigh in. Thanks for the invite, Preston. Mr. Meyer is correct. We're about 56% have gotten at least 1 dose. 46% of the county population is up to date with their 2 doses. That's about 46%. So we're doing a good job on getting vaccines in the arms, and I think county uptake is really good. We still have a list of about 550 people that we need to get to, but we are still getting Moderna vaccine pretty regularly. Obviously, the Johnson & Johnson is on hold. So I think we're doing a good job. Like Preston was saying, the state dial is expected to retire on Friday, and there will be a different public health order with more guidance from the state. But essentially the dial will be going away, and then we'll have a discussion with the Board of Health early next week to discuss, do we want to adopt a dial locally? Do we want to let it go away with the state? What do we want to look at as it comes to a county and a board of health? So unfortunately, there's more to be learned on Friday, and I don't have great solid information what it's going to look like moving forward after Friday afternoon. Like Preston was saying also, I expect indoor events to still have a cap, but anything other than that is yet to be seen. I do expect the statewide mask order to continue. Social distancing, I think that's yet to be seen. I know that's a big issue, especially with restaurants. The social distancing in a small venue really hampers how many people you can fit in there. So I think I wish I had more info before Friday, but that's kind of where we're at right now.
Thanks, Tanner. That's about what I was feeling about the whole picture myself. And I would just weigh in to say that, of course, so many of my friends and fellow Ridgwayans know how much I love the concert series and what a big part of summer in Ridgway it is for me, that's for sure. I've just been telling people, we just don't know where we're going to be then, but we're at this point, we're hoping we can do it. I know that our promoter is trying to line up bands, that there a lot of the musical world, the promoter world is just now kind of gearing up, and everyone I think is in the same boat of sort of being cautiously optimistic about things. I know I had a chat, Dave Turner from Uray is a good friend of mine, and he talked about them, Uray wanting to do at least one concert, and he talked about them talking about even painting 6-foot circles at 6 feet apart from each other all over the park, and just basically saying first come, first serve. You can bring your pod of, what would it be? Probably not more than 4 or 5 people in a circle. And once the circles fill up, you're stuck either sitting in your car nearby in the street if you can find a parking place, that sort of thing. I mean, I think that's kind of what we're facing, and it's a lot's going to depend on what happens between now and then with the variants and just our levels. But I would say I'm certainly up for being cautiously optimistic and moving forward with plans to do our concert series in July, and just leaving it to see how we are when we get there. Because if things are as they are now or better, we should be able to go ahead and do it. Whether we do it with the 6-foot circles or what, I don't know. But anybody else want to weigh in?
Yeah, I think there's a good chance. I mean, Tanner, correct me if I'm wrong. I would expect Pfizer to approve their vaccine down to 12-year-olds before we get to July. It seems like a fair, whether we're able to get it to all of our kids not having Pfizer, but we're going to, start to capture that percentage of our population that isn't even eligible now. I think John's right. Cautious optimism. I think clear that we don't know quite what it's going to look like on the ground outside of a band on the stage is important. But I think getting back to having some semblance of our summer would be really awesome.
I'd like to weigh in with the suggestion that we don't go forward with a 6-foot circle idea. I think that's just going to lead to disaster. There's so much pent up energy and pent up demand to be part of this, and people come from, they'll be driving from far distances, and if the circle's filled up, you're going to have people that either are going to violate that circle thing, or they're going to be just extremely frustrated and angry if they can't participate. So I would suggest that that's going to be a difficult option, in my opinion.
I also was wondering about the enforceability of that sort of thing, because you can say this is what we're doing, but how are we going to enforce that? And would the officers in town be annoyed at us for being like, you have to try to enforce this? Good luck.
Yeah, actually, if I may, Angela, Terry, you guys bring up a great point. That's something Pam and I were just talking about a little while ago, the enforcement piece is huge, and it's going to be very, very difficult depending on the model or approach that we end up with. If someone mentioned it and I missed it, I apologize, but and Tanner, you might have more information about this, but I think Ridgway has opted to only move forward with like 1, maybe 2 concerts this summer.
I heard just one.
Just one, yeah. So, you know, July slated to have 5 Thursdays. You know, if are we looking to have 5 concerts, or, you know, is there an appetite to dwindle the amount of concerts we have to plan for? You know, I think especially if we're having to enforce on some level the distancing piece, the mask piece, what have you.
Yeah. And on the other hand, the fewer concerts you have, the more concentrated the interest in the concerts is onto fewer days.
Yeah, but I mean, we have concerts every single week, like it's just the mass of bodies on top of each other. Like there is no distance in like a regular summer, which has me a little concerned because, you know, we're going to be having people from out of state, maybe states who aren't as well vaccinated as we are, you know, like what is our liability for that sort of thing if we end up like having these and there's cases that come, like would that be pinpointable to like this, or like what would the town's responsibility or liability be? I mean, I want to have them because I want to go dance to music, but I also want to be responsible.
Well, and the enforceability issue, separate from whether or not we as the town or even the law enforcement can enforce it, you'll have vigilantes. You'll have people, one pod wanting to enforce it against another pod and creating conflict. And,
yeah, you
know, it would just be a mess, I think, if you had to, you know, count on people being on an honor system to do that.
Yeah.
And certainly the conflict amongst it.
My guess is, and again, so much, what are we, the 15th of April is tomorrow, and we're talking July, so 3 months away. Anything can, as we've seen in the last year, who knows where we'll be a month from now, let alone 3 months from now. I think we're not going to see the same kind of crowds that we saw in 2019 and before, because some people are just going to be too nervous to come out into a crowd like that. That would be my guess. Of course, who knows? But I'm certainly open to doing it every week if we can do it at all. I mean, to me, that's the thing. If we can do it at all, I don't see the problem of doing it every week. But I think we have to work closely with Tanner. We have to work with the Board of Health, which is the county commissioners. And we have to just kind of see how things play out. I mean, what's mind-boggling to me is that when the vaccines were first rolling out, everyone was told that if you weren't in the older generation or compromised condition, that June or July was going to be the earliest you're going to get vaccinated. And here I am 2 weeks out from my second shot in the middle of April. So everything has played out much faster than we thought. It's been a huge success, not unqualified and certainly not perfect, but nothing is. But it's been way more successful than I think a lot of us imagined. And if it continues that way, I think we're probably going to be okay. I see Jake's hand up, Jake Neese.
Hey there.
Hey.
So just from my perspective as an individual commissioner, I can't speak for the board, but where my head is at with the concert series is I very much want to see them happen. I think that's an excellent goal to shoot for. Just like a further out goal that we should shoot for is ensuring that we can keep school in person in the fall of 2021. And I think what we have to do is fall back on fundamentals, is require masks when it's possible, when you're not actively eating or drinking. Use the COVID calculator for the space that we have. We have that tool, and if we measure the square footage of the cordoned off area for the concerts, we can use the COVID calculator for an outdoor space. And then if we reach those limits recommended by that calculator, then we can do a 1 in, 1 out kind of thing. And further, an argument for having acts every week, this could be an opportunity to book more local acts. That would reduce the risk of paying high prices, having people coming in from Nashville or California, and it would allow for a lot more flexibility if things have to be canceled or rescheduled. So I think there's a lot of opportunity here to do it right. I think we can do it, and I think it's a really positive goal that we should shoot for.
Great, thanks, Jake. I think I saw Sue's hand up for a second there, but I don't see it now. Anyone else in the audience want to weigh in?
Sorry, this is Josie. I don't see an option to raise my hand, so I don't know if I'm supposed to be talking right now. Is that okay?
It's, yeah, go ahead. It's under, they moved it under reactions, but feel free to just go ahead.
Okay, I just saw unmute or mute. I guess my question, which I had emailed Jake earlier this week in regards to all sorts of decisions being made right now, is at what point, when we've reached the threshold of people who want to be vaccinated, are we going to continue to enforce things like 6-foot distancing, et cetera? Because Uray County is doing amazing at this. But at some point, we're going to reach the threshold of whoever wants to be vaccinated will be. And based on our current stats, we will have reached that by July. And so I am just wondering, like, how do we anticipate moving forward as a community, whether it's, you know, for whatever it is, if we've reached the threshold of who is going to be vaccinated, has chosen to do so, everyone else has chosen their level of risk. And so I guess that's sort of where I'm confused about where we're looking at things at this point, because I feel like people have chosen their level of risk by July.
Well, Angela mentioned, Josie, that in July, we also have non-Uray County residents visiting. So we don't know what their particular vaccine rate
Of course, but by
I think
July,
that's one of the factors. It's not the only one, but it's one of them.
but that doesn't answer my question, Beth. My question is, if you've chosen to visit Uray County in July without being vaccinated, you've chosen your level of risk. And so I guess my question,
I'm saying that's not a metric that I can account for. So you're asking what levels and when do we decide to get rid of it? And I'm saying I basically have to look at nationwide stats to guesstimate where visitors are. So that's what I'm telling you is, like, in terms of a metric, we have Uray County, but we also have people outside who may or may not be in communities like Uray County, where if they want a shot, they're getting it right away.
understood, but I feel like that's not reality. If you want a shot, you're not choosing to go to Uray County without being vaccinated and then choosing to go to music in the park.
I don't think that that's a fair assessment either, though, because I'm sure that there are people who are not going to get vaccinated, who are going to want to go back to life as normal, who are going to do things and say, well, I'm choosing my risk assessment and I'm not going to get vaccinated, but I'm still going to go out and do things. And like, we don't know who hasn't been vaccinated. That's not something that we're not doing the vaccine passport sort of thing in this country. So it also then impacts our local community. And I don't know if our community will be, once, you said like people get to, if they want to, they've been vaccinated, if that means we'll be at herd immunity for our county or not. Like, I don't know what those numbers are going to end up being or anything either. So it's not as simple as like, well, if you wanted to, you are for us.
No, I agree. We will not hit herd immunity by vaccine status. Yeah. I guess that's sort of my question, is that I am fully confident we will not hit vaccine or herd immunity by vaccine status. So then what is the plan? I guess that's more my question, because I fully believe with how divided our country is on vaccines that we will not hit that herd immunity by vaccine status.
Tanner, do you have thoughts based on Josie's question?
Yeah, I think it's a really good question. It's a tough question to answer. I think we still have a good amount of people on our list that we need to get through, because I don't really have a good handle right now on the amount of people who aren't gonna get the vaccine. I haven't crunched those numbers or had anyone help me crunch those yet. So I don't know what the threshold is on when we know, okay, no more people are going to want it. There's new people signing up still. We're still having 70-year-olds, even the 80-year-old last week sign up still. So I don't know. We need to look at not only vaccine status, but also prior infection. Because you're right, it's not going to be just vaccines, but prior infection gives you some protection as well. So I don't have a great answer. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and the more I think about it too, Josie, I think it's just it's almost an impossible question to answer, because I think my guess is as the months roll on, the scientific community is going to start saying, well, actually here we've got a new version of this vaccine or that vaccine that we think is better at treating the variants, and you can get a booster. And, I don't think from what I've been reading, I don't think we're ever going to be done vaccinating for this. It's going to probably evolve into something much like a flu shot that a lot of us take every fall anyway, because it's going to be that kind of thing that just continues to evolve and mutate. And we're going to need boosters. That's what a lot of people are saying. So I'm not sure if I'm totally understanding your question as far as if we reach a point where we just say we're done. I don't see that happening as far as vaccinations go. And I think we have to continue doing all the other things that, I don't think masks are going to ever completely go away in our society. I know that's a tough thing for a lot of people to grapple with, but if we want to protect the vulnerable, it's a better safe than sorry thing. And this is when lives are at stake. We're fortunate that at this point, more than a year in, there are a whole lot fewer people dying from it. That the science, the doctors, the medical profession, everybody's figured out ways to treat it. It seems like the mortality is really gone down, not disappeared by any stretch, but fewer and fewer people are actually dying, even though the rates of infection are kind of plateauing. So I see two hands up. I saw Autumn's first. Go ahead, Autumn. I think you can unmute yourself. Go ahead.
All right. Hi, everybody. Thank you for a moment here. I would just like to say that you never know the level of health of the person next to you. So when you choose to go anywhere with people around, you are taking your chances anytime. So how long are we as a tourist community going to live and hide in fear?
Autumn, that's a really hard question to answer, because a lot of people don't consider it hiding in fear. They think about the health level of that person next to them and say, I don't know, and could I be putting them at risk?
Yeah,
everyone on this council wants to be back at a place where we're having concerts and we're moving around and we're doing all the things that we love. But I think it's important to take cautious steps versus just dropping all defenses.
Yeah,
I didn't say anything about dropping all defenses. I said, we're a tourist community. You're talking about the things that bring livelihood to our area. And you're saying that we may never be done with masks. We may question. Excuse me. I'm just saying, from the comments that I'm hearing, we're projecting into a future that we're trying to theorize. Maybe, how long is it going to take for everybody to get a good level of vaccinations, to feel comfortable having those concerts, going and doing those things. And I just would like to say, because I'm not hearing anybody else say it, we as a tourist town, our livelihood is based on those people coming from other areas. So again, you don't know the health level of the person next to you. You cannot ask the person next to you what level of vaccinations they've had, what they are, maybe contaminated with in their own body, or what they've been exposed to. That's not our business to know. When you choose to go to a concert, you're putting yourself at risk of a lot of different things. You could be bit by somebody's dog that's in the park at the concert next to you. I mean, you're choosing to put yourself out there to experience something that you want to be in participation of, a concert, an event, different things. I'm not hearing anybody else really speaking up and asking this question. How long are we going to think of restricting the things that bring livelihood to our area?
It's livelihood versus lives.
Yeah, I think maybe what you're not hearing is that we all want to open up as much as possible, as soon as possible. That, I think we've been saying that about the concert series, this entire discussion. And all I was saying about masks is that some of us are going to continue to wear masks when we feel like there's a risk to others that we can help avoid by wearing a mask. And I'm not saying that, and I guess that the other thing I don't quite agree with you on is that somehow having a mask mandate, urging people to wear masks to be safe and to protect their neighbor is somehow hurting our tourist economy. I think you've heard us say we all want to, most of us want to do 5 concerts. There was some debate about whether we do all 5 Thursdays, but I think the majority of us want to do all 5 if there's any way possible. And in other things, I mean, the 610 patio is reopening it May 1st, I know for a fact. So I mean, I think we all want to see our businesses and our venues and everybody be able to get as close to normal as we can as soon as possible, and recognize that that's a key part of our reality, our economy, everything. So hopefully that helps. Sue.
Thanks, Mayor Clark. I was thinking as close to normal as comfortable is probably a good term. I'm working a lot in the public right now, and I also work a lot with public lands. The national parks are crushed. The public lands are crushed. And, I think that the mask wearing, just understanding that no one's had the flu or a cold this past winter, it's really important. But I feel like there's a lot to consider with the beer tent, of course. Speaking as a person who's had to try to enforce just the boundaries of the beer tent, I'd like to say that that enforcing boundary with a single in, single out kind of thing makes my head explode. Yeah. And I understand how that whole thing goes, having been on the front line, walking those lines in the dark, trying to deal with everything. It's absolutely impossible. I'm not kidding. So yes, concerts and music. I like the idea of the local acts and not kind of booking Lucas Nelson. Although I'd love to see Lucas Nelson again, I don't think that booking some of those acts would be super great right now. And local acts need we all need that boost, and our local musicians are as good, and so putting some folks on the stage who we all love may be a really good solution. Also, maybe ending before dark would be helpful. Just kind of trying to think of, we've all adjusted to a lot of different things right now. And I think that adjusting to different things with this are going to be kind of par for the course. But our new normal, I think, is different for all of us. And it's different at the thrift shop. It's different at Colorado Boy. It's different at Town Hall. It's different in the park. And we're just going to have to figure out what works best for everybody. And Tanner, sorry, but there you go again. It's all you.
Jake, did you want to add something?
Yeah, just one more quick note is what I'm hearing is that we all have kind of the same goal, is we want to get back to normal, but what is normal to each one of us? It's a little bit different. I think some people are thinking we're going to have masks are going to be normal. Some people are thinking that masks are a symbol of this bad thing that's happened to us. But I really, really want to try to emphasize the paradigm that wearing masks are a tool to keep us open. They're a tool that they don't restrict activity, they enable activity. And so if we keep it up for a little while longer, maybe the rest of the summer, that might be the most effective way to get back to normal, whatever that is. And that's going to be a little different for everyone. But I'm hearing that we all want the same thing. So I just want to emphasize that I think we're arguing about how to get there instead of what we want. And I think masks are a tool for us to get back to whatever our new normal is going to be. Thanks.
Thanks, Jake. That's a good point. Terry?
Maybe Russ or Tanner can quote the statistics. I have the resiliency plan in front of me, but one of the most interesting things I thought that came out of that study was that through all the trials and tribulations and our stumbling through the management of this crisis during the summer, that our tax revenues and our tourism actually went up. And I thought that was an interesting side note to that study. And I think it's a credit to, even though we didn't know exactly what we were doing at first, and we were trying to be cautious and judicious like we're trying to be now, that there is a potential way to manage this situation and still, ease our way or clutch our way back into the things that we want to do, as long as we're, doing it in a deliberate way. And it may be, Russ, maybe you remember those statistics, but I don't have the plan open in front of me, but it was pretty astounding to me that countywide, at least from a tourism point of view, we didn't actually go very far back. I mean, there were certain pockets and obviously various businesses had their own challenges, but in total, it seemed like tourism was, and the tax revenues were up as a result of that.
It's like 20%, I think.
I thought it was 30, so it was big.
Mind-boggling, yep.
Yeah.
Which is a credit to the way that it was managed. I suppose it's also unique that we were, a point of attraction from these various communities that were pent up and they couldn't do things. So we became a focal point for outside tourism, maybe more so than normal if the pandemic hadn't hit.
Yeah, and I think we'll continue to see increased activity here this summer as well. And it's all going to be a matter of how we end up deciding to manage it. I, for one, want to see the concerts come back. I don't think we're going to resolve it tonight, but I think with an ongoing basis and working with Tanner, we can put together a plan that's going to make everybody feel pretty comfortable. One of the things that I continue to look at and have questions about is just the ability to be outside and not potentially contracted. I mean, last year when this whole rush came out, we talked about actually requiring masks in high density areas outside in both Ridgway and Ouray. And based off the guidance from the Board of Health, it was that we didn't need to do that. So it'll be interesting to see exactly how this moves forward. Again, there were some cases last year, but for the overflow of people who came from COVID states, we really didn't have as big a problem as we were concerned with. And so I think we need to keep those things in consideration as we move forward with the idea of hopefully opening this up to concerts this year.
Tanner, if we had a concert on day one, and there was some sort of an outbreak associated with that, would you know of the results of that before, say we spaced the concerts one every 2 weeks? Would we have the ability to monitor the effect of concert one before concert two?
Ooh, good question. It depends. It would depend on infection. It depends on how soon people show symptoms, because that's usually their indication to go get tested. So some people develop symptoms day 2 of exposure. Some people develop symptoms day 14. So it would really depend on when people seek out testing after exposure. So I think 2 weeks would be the absolute minimum.
Well, and I think there's also the fact that if people are coming to those that are just traveling through, like we would have no idea, like we wouldn't be able to capture that information.
Yeah.
It would just be for people who are staying in the area.
Well, there's always been some capturing of if someone has been here and then moves on, goes home, goes to the next destination, and then they end up getting sick. They typically have to report where they've been in the previous week or two so that those places can be notified that this person could have been a source of infection in those week or 2 weeks. So it's not, you don't Tanner, correct me if I'm wrong, but we do potentially get some information from people who have passed through and gotten sick.
Yep. Yep, I've worked with health departments in Georgia, health departments in Texas, all over with contact tracing back to us. So yeah, you're right.
Are we limited to just the month of July for this concert? What if we were to space 3 concerts 2 weeks apart rather than trying to shove 5 of them into the 1 month? Is there any limitation on having them all in 1 month?
Not necessarily.
That's a good question.
But Paonia does, typically the history has been that the month of the month of June, Uray does theirs. The month of July, Ridgway does theirs. The month of August, Paonia does theirs, and we don't step on each other's toes. So we benefit from the fact that Paonia's promoter is also our promoter. So we could work with him, but my guess is he's not going to be a big fan of that. I would question whether, sorry, Angela, I would question whether we really need to do every other week. I mean, I guess the biggest problem is just, timing, as far as booking. And I mean, I think I definitely need to talk to our promoter tomorrow and say, how about thinking more local? Because I know he's already working with national acts. He sent us some national acts to sort of get our feelings on already.
John, honestly, is a national act really a risk? I understand like flexibility in terms of rescheduling, but I don't see the performer as really being a problem here.
I don't necessarily either. I mean, I like the idea of trying to do things that benefit some of our local acts that have suffered greatly over the last year. And what I know we've done in the past is try and use access local acts for the openers. And that certainly could work again. Tanner, just what's your general thought? I'm not putting you on the spot, but do you think there's an advantage to doing an every other week or something other than every week in July? Assuming we get to the 1st of July and things are at least as good as they are now, generally. What do you think? That was a question for you, Tanner.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know this for me. Gosh, it's really hard to say. I hate to put my foot in my mouth or anything.
We value your opinion.
Wash your foot first.
I mean, it depends. I mean, it's kind of a judgment opinion type of call. I mean, there's definitely value to having an event like that for community cohesiveness, to bring up morale, those type of things. But there's risk involved too. There's risk involved with everything we're doing these days. So I don't know. I hate saying I don't know all the time, but that's the truth.
That's just the reality. I get it.
Hey, John, maybe we could, what about alternating a local and a national act every other? That might help with the scheduling issue.
What would be the benefit of that?
The scheduling issue, if you had to cancel something, you've got a local act in between the national acts, giving more time to give a national act, time to cancel.
So real quick, Mayor, if I may, I
go
think
ahead.
Pam would like to give some insight on the conversation with the promoter and stuff and kind of, where that's headed. But I kind of want to go back real quick. Terry and Russ were talking about, what transpired last summer and how busy it was. Mayor, you had opined a little while ago. I don't want to misrepresent your comments, but you thought that, attendance may be, not as large as we've seen in past years, given where we're at with the pandemic and stuff. And I'm not in the business of giving opinions very often, but I'll give one now. I think the opposite. I think people are ready to come out of the woodwork. And I'm genuine when I say that. I think there's some pent up energy. And when you add food vendors and a beer tent and live music and dancing, man, I want to be out there too. Sign me up. I mean, I on the conservative side would plan for that. So
Yeah.
I really wanted to, get that out there, that's what I'm anticipating this summer. Will that come to fruition? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe you're right, John, maybe you're right on the money, but I think it'd be responsible for us to plan as if people will be coming out of the woodwork, which, if we move forward with a concert series in some form or fashion, we may want to stray from advertising through, the traditional methods and stuff. We talked about enforcement of some of these, mechanisms to try to not spread or try to ease transmission, right? Again, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but that it really would be difficult. I think Commissioner Neese had talked about the one person in, one person out, approach, and that very well may be the case or may be needed. But that, given our staff, I don't want to state the obvious, given our staff, that's going to be very, very difficult for us, especially
it's
5 Thursdays throughout July. Terry, I think, I appreciate your thoughts about maybe doing one every other week, et cetera. So, I have a lot of thoughts here and I'm kind of going all over the place, but, and I want Pam to pipe in because she has some concerns as well. This is something that we're not going to figure out tonight, I guess.
Right.
At the end of the day, we're not going to figure it out, but I think if you all can, give us just some general direction on how to proceed, and we can revisit this month to month. Like you said, John, we have about 3 months time till July, less than that, but we have some time to figure it out. So Pam, do you want to say
I agree. I was going to say the same thing. I was going to say, Pam, just hold on a second. We're not going to answer all the questions tonight. We're not going to come up with a final decision tonight. I think I'm hearing definite consensus that we all want to do as much as we can in the way of the concert series, get it as close to what it was 2 years ago as we can, given the circumstances, for all the reasons we've talked about, morale, everything. But we're not going to decide it tonight. We have to remain flexible. And the only other point I would make, and then Pam, you can go, is that we stopped advertising a long time ago. Several years ago, we stopped advertising because we realized we were already getting more people than we could almost handle for some acts. So go ahead, Pam.
Right, thank you. Yeah, so one of the things that I do for the town is I organize the concert series. So there is a lot that goes into putting together the series. It's not just getting acts. So there's other things that we will have to do, even if we end up pulling the series and not following through. We cannot schedule in August. I mean, I suppose we can, but Peonia is already scheduled for August. He's already got his approvals. He's already lined up. So that would be probably something we wouldn't want to do to them, to also hold a concert on the same night. And we wouldn't have our promoter here because he would be in Peonia. We have already also paid deposits for some performers from last year because we were already getting things ready last January. So we have some acts already that we've given money to in 2020. So as far as just looking at just doing local, we would be losing money to do that. Another piece is, Preston and I have talked about this. We've talked about it extensively. It would be impossible for us to enforce pods or wearing of masks, or to regulate who's coming into the area and how many numbers of people. It's just not, we can't do it. That's all I can say about that. As far as getting direction and revisiting this month by month, that's great. I know that our promoter would like to also look at doing that. And, just hearing from what the council has to say tonight, it sounds like you all want to see this happen if it can. And we can go ahead and start doing things like looking at our lining up acts. Of course, everyone at this point knows that it might not happen. And we are making those types of provisions in our contracts with people, because we're also lining up our sound person and our lighting. And I will have to start looking at lodging. That's big, because we don't have that kind of lodging here in town, and it's a busy time of year. So there's just a lot of moving pieces here, and just really having council direction of where you would like to see us go is going to be really helpful at this point.
So do you think that we've given you enough guidance on that we want to do as much as we can, but we realize we have to be flexible, and we may have to pivot a little bit as we get closer. So you're getting a thumbs up from council on the concert series.
Yeah, and we've got that. Thank you. That's hugely helpful. I think for me, like from my perspective, it would, because we're planning a phone call with the promoter tomorrow, it would be helpful if we could let him know, yeah, we're moving, the general consensus was to move forward with 5 Thursdays in July, or 3 Thursdays in July, 2 weeks apart, right? Or, I'm making this up, but 5, John?
I see at least 3 people saying 5.
Well, I was wondering if, like Terry had said about spreading them out, could we go into June, because Ridgway is not going to be doing them in June? They're only doing one. Then we could spread them out and we wouldn't be stepping on Paonia's toes.
I honestly don't know that, like Tanner said, spreading it out is kind of whether that's helping us.
Right.
I just think if we don't want to be doing advertising and trying to get too much information out about it, and we're already going to be trying to communicate what we would like that we can't necessarily maybe enforce for COVID precautions, I would say let's do a Ridgway Thursdays in July, and we need people to do the right thing, and they need to know that if we're seeing a spike in the community, we're going to cancel the last 3 concerts.
Yeah,
I don't think we can do any better than that.
As far as June goes, that I believe that Ridgway's planning on doing the last Thursday in June, because it's closest to the 4th. And for us to do earlier than that, I think just raises red flags about whether we'll actually be ready or not. It also throws some wrenches into the promoter's plans. So I'm with Beth. I think let's plan for 5. Let's try and do every Thursday in July, and we're just going to have to be ready to possibly have to cancel 1 or 2 or more if things go south really fast. Does that make sense? I saw at least 4 people do the 5 finger deal. Terry, are you okay with that?
Yeah. I was just trying to come up with ideas.
Yeah, and Angela, I definitely hear where you're coming from. I'm with Beth. I think it's questionable whether it would really help, and it would definitely create more wrenches into the gears, so to speak.
Okay.
So Preston, I think you've got your marching orders, and good luck with the call.
Guys, sorry, I've had my hand up for a while.
Yeah.
Wait, for a really long time. So you've covered most of what I was thinking, but to answer Beth, I would say the national acts really change the crowd, and that's the point. And for me, the pressure of all the places my faces have to appear is, how do we do this safely? And the added logistics to all of this is not just let's do 5 concerts in a row in July. I mean, there's so many logistics that go with this just on the beer tent end, much less everywhere else. So yeah, I was thinking along what Angela was saying is moving into June, and agreed, we cannot step on Paonia. August is theirs. It's sacred. They started it. Let's leave August to Paonia, without a question. But yeah, to Beth's point, the national accounts really change the audiences, and that is, and our locals have a vested interest in what happens here in this town, and the others do not. And we're faced with that every day at the thrift shop. So I'm just going to put that out there. So thanks, guys.
Preston,
Sorry, I
yeah,
didn't call on you, Sue. Go ahead,
but I
Beth.
think Preston can take that feedback to the call with our promoter tomorrow, right, Preston? And kind of share some of our concerns about National X and see if there's any ways we can ameliorate that problem.
Right, yeah, we can have that. Yeah, we'll kind of regurgitate everything to Rob. Come May, we'll report on progress with the concerts and maybe have a similar type conversation in May, right? So I think we have the direction we need. Really appreciate that. And Tanner, thank you very much for being here tonight.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Tanner.
Thank you.
Thanks everybody for your input. It's I mean, the only last comment I'll make is just don't misunderstand us. We want to open back up as much as possible, as soon as possible. We all want the same thing. We all want to return to as much of what we call normal as we can, but we also want to be safe. So can't put it any simpler than that. That brings us to item number 15, consideration of cost of living and merit increase for Town Manager Preston Neal.
John, before we go there, I just have to make an excuse. You know, you guys, the town is a key account for me at San Miguel Power. I have 38 key accounts that are out of power in Silverton. 752 people are out, so I may have to jump off the line shortly to start working an outage. So
okay.
I'll keep doing both until I get called to action. So just
okay. You got a big outage in Silverton?
Yeah, the tree blew down on the line, took out all of Silverton, all the way up to Molass and back. So,
oh my gosh. All right. Well, yeah, do what you got to do. Thanks for letting us know.
I'll let you know if I have to bag out. I just want to give you a heads up.
You have to jump. That's okay. We still have a quorum.
Okay,
all right. So I think the town attorney Bo is going to help me with this, just so we do it all appropriately. Because it was a personnel matter, we had an executive session last month to present Preston with his first review after his first year of employment. And now we want to discuss compensation. And Bo, just if you would help me with the doing this properly.
Yeah, that sounds great. Thank you, Mayor. As you indicated, there was Preston's first review as town manager, kind of just hit that 1 year mark, and the council conducted that and had the discussion in the executive session. Thereafter, the direction was to confer with respect to Preston's existing contract and to come in line with respect to the cost of living increase that had been provided to the remaining town employees. And this is on the agenda for the consideration of the council to match that same cost of living increase. I apologize, I can't remember what that percentage was offhand, but it would just tie into, for the town manager to tie into the same compensation increase percentage-wise that was distributed for the other employees.
Yeah, I believe it was 5%, right?
Yep.
The base recollection. So if
I'd like to clarify that the cost of living for staff was not 5%, it was 3%, but there was merit increases that were given. So it sounds to me, I believe what you're doing is you're talking about two things. You're talking about cost of living and a merit increase.
I believe you're correct.
Yeah, that would be correct, that it would be both the cost of living and the merit increase. So.
And so if I understand correctly the process, and just this is something we do once a year at most, so it's not something I have down pat, but I would be essentially entertaining a motion from someone on council to formalize the cost of living 3% with an additional 2% merit increase for a total of 5% on top of his existing salary.
Yeah, that would be the motion, and then again, subject to discussion amongst the council and going from there. So.
Okay, anybody have any comments, questions?
I'll go
Do
ahead
we
and
need to ask for public comment on this?
You can't, yeah, I mean, you certainly can.
I'm fine with that. If anybody has any comments or questions, it kind of goes without saying, but Preston has done just an incredible job in his first year. He got thrown into a once in 100 years pandemic situation, and he has just performed with flying colors, and he's just been rock solid. Great town manager. Wonderful to have in his position in these difficult times. So he's got a glowing review. Anybody have any comments or questions from the audience? Any other comments or questions from council?
I move we award Preston a 5% merit and cost of living raise based on his most recent performance review.
second.
Great, thank you. Motion made by Beth, seconded by Russ. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Council members Farrelly,
Aye.
Grambly,
Aye.
Lakin,
Aye.
Meyer,
Aye.
Schuyler.
Aye.
Still there.
All right, thank you very much. And Preston, much deserved. We couldn't have done this last year without you. So thank you very much.
Thank you all. Much appreciated.
Yeah. That takes us to item number 17, review and ratification of letter regarding Uray County landmark designation for the structure located at 540 Clinton Street. Preston?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. So this is a letter from Mayor Clark on behalf of the Ridgway Town Council that we sent, or that we had prepared and John signed a few weeks back at the request of the County Board of Commissioners regarding the structure that burned down back in December, I think it was, at 540 Clinton Street. And the request was for a formal letter from you all, the town council, supporting that the structure be given Uray County landmark designation. So hopefully you've had a chance to read the letter. Pretty straightforward. Made the call to get it penned up and signed and sent over to them as it was needed very quickly. I'm forgetting exactly why, but it was all part of and actually Commissioner Neese is on here. He may recall exactly, but it may have been in part due to funding opportunities for that structure being restored.
Yes. Go ahead, Jake, if you have any comments.
Yes, Preston was correct. There's a grant opportunity afoot, and historic designation is going to help them with that grant application.
The Main Street architect in town last week to talk about two structures in town that are looking for grants based on historic status. So that's a big deal, and it would be so incredible to have that building saved. It didn't quite burn down. It burned pretty significantly, but if we can get it restored through some help from federal and state funds, that would be just fabulous. So that's our hope. So someone want to make a motion to ratify that letter?
I move to ratify the letter to the county administrator approving, providing our endorsement to have this considered a Uray County landmark.
Second that.
Second.
Great. Motion by Russ, second by Beth. Roll call vote, please.
Council members Farrelly,
Aye.
Grambly,
Aye.
Lakin,
Aye.
Meyer,
Aye.
Schuyler.
Aye.
Great. Thanks very much, everybody, and we'll hope for the best on 540 Clinton, the old post office. That takes us to item number 18, which is annual appointment of Mayor Pro Tem and review of council representation on boards, committees, and commissions. I would imagine that some of this we might need to finish up next month when we get Adam seated. But I would first entertain anyone who would be interested in being the mayor pro tem for the first time since Eric's been that for, gosh, only knows how many years, probably since I became mayor, because I was mayor pro tem before that. So 9 years ago was when Eric started, and this would be a big shift. So anybody interested in, and just to explain, mayor pro tem is just Latin for temporary, and basically all it means is that the mayor pro tem is the person who runs the meeting in my absence, does any sort of formal action for the town that I'm unable to do, basically kind of stand in for me if for some reason I can't do my duties. So is anybody willing to take a stab at that? We redo it every year, just so you know. We vote on it every year, so you know it's not a long-term commitment as of yet. I don't see anybody jumping at the bit.
I can probably handle that.
You want to do that, Russ?
Sure.
Okay.
Awesome.
How about somebody make a motion to appoint Russ as mayor pro tem?
I'll make a motion to appoint Russ Meyer as mayor pro tem for this next coming term.
Second.
I think Angela beat you to that, Kevin. Motion by Terry, second by Angela. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Frelly,
Aye.
Grambly,
Aye.
Lakin,
Aye.
Meyer.
Am I supposed to vote on this?
Sure, you can vote.
Yes, you are.
Aye.
Skylar,
Aye.
All right, congratulations, Russ.
Thanks.
Next in
Right
a
on,
long,
Russ. Thank you.
next in a long line of honorable mayors pro tem.
Gotta get a top hat.
I have a bowler I can loan you. All right, so looking at council committee designations, the main ones we need to fill, of course, are the ones that former Mayor Pro Tem Johnson, Eric Johnson filled, Councilor Johnson. First one on the list is Ridgway Parks, Trails, and Open Space. Anyone dying to get involved with Parks, Trails, and Open Space?
I'll do
And-
that one, if
Great.
that's all
Okay. And Pam and Preston, correct me if I'm wrong, but these volunteer positions to be on these committees and appointments, we don't need motions for each of these, correct?
no, we've never done that in the past.
I didn't think so. Okay. Thank you, Angela, for stepping up to that. It's a really important but very rewarding assignment. Ridgway Scholarship Committee. Can I ask if Beth, if you'd be willing to do that with me?
I was going to volunteer.
Great. You'd be perfect for that. And we are doing our $1,000 scholarship again this year. The Ridgway School just reached out to ask me a week or so ago, and so we should be getting some applications pretty soon. I'll let you know. Usually what happens is they bring a packet of applications in an envelope to town hall, and I go and grab them and review them and then leave them back there for you to review, or in whatever order we do it. Then we talk about who we think is good.
Should we
Go ahead.
Should we open this up to Adam as well?
Yeah, I think what I was going to say is that if any of these further, the board appointments are a little more formal. Again, nothing so formal if they need a vote, but if we want, we could maybe, well, here's what I would say. First off, is there anybody when looking at their responsibilities in the way of board appointments that wants to stop doing something that they're listed as doing now? Or are you all good with your appointments there? Everybody, like everybody's okay. So then Eric was alternate on the Uray County Joint Planning Board. He was also on the Snuffles Energy, he was alternate on the Snuffles Energy Board. I don't even remember that that was the case, but anyway. He was.
You know, I have to attend the Snuffles Energy Board for San Miguel Power. The only potential conflict is I have to represent them as the primary, so I could be alternate, but I'm not sure if that's a conflict if I have to represent the town as well. Generally, there's not much conflict.
And it's funny because Beth is the formal, Beth and
Right.
Preston are the listed members with Eric as the alternate. I've been attending those meetings on and off since the beginning, so I could remain the alternate. I could be the alternate. I sort of kind of thought I was. So I don't think that's a problem. So the only other shoes to fill for Eric is the alternate on the joint planning board. And if we wanted to wait and see if Adam wanted to do that, we could put that one off till next month. How does everybody feel about that?
Yeah, that's fine.
I think we should give him the option.
Before we building.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. We could just tell him that that's what his job is.
I mean, he's still on the call, so he could,
It does say appointment. Yeah.
he's given us the thumbs up. He's fine with it.
He's giving us. Yeah. All right. Why don't we just, if staff thinks it's appropriate, let's go ahead and say that incoming Counselor Beck will be the alternate on the Erie County Joint Planning Board. And I think that's it. Staff, do you have anything missed?
You had an
Thank
addition
you.
that you wanted to do, right?
Pardon?
There was an addition at the beginning of the meeting you wanted to do at the end about in-person meetings.
Yeah, we'll still, I just
Okay.
wonder if this item's done. Thank you. Staff, are we done with this item? I think we are.
We are, thank you.
Great. Thanks, everybody. Great team effort. Yeah, so this brings us to the addition would, I guess, be new number item 20, but no, new number 19 and town manager report becomes 20. Anyway, discussion of returning to in-person meetings. Preston.
Yeah, I don't think I really need to say much here. It's posing a question to you all about, I saw Russ earlier today and he had posed a question and I felt silly that I hadn't even had that at top of mind over the last couple of weeks, but I think the time has come to obviously have a conversation about the return and how to navigate that. I've been calling people out a lot tonight, but I see Commissioner Neese still on, and they, when they approved or when they considered and approved the mask order, the local mask order last week, the commissioners were together in a meeting room. So that was really interesting. And the meeting was being broadcasted. So Jake, I invite you to kind of make some remarks on that if you would. And then Bo, I'll pick on you too, because you work in some other communities that have been meeting in person for a while now, I think, or for at least some time. Would love to hear from you on your perspective on how they approach that.
Go ahead, Jake.
Well, I'll go ahead. We are moving toward having meetings with the commissioners in person and the public zooming in. The commissioner meeting room in the courthouse is rather small, and there's no way that even if we did get everyone to agree to wear a mask, that we could have proper social distancing there. And so just because it is harder for the primary people speaking between the commissioners and the administrator and the clerk, being in person allows for a lot more of those subtle cues to be picked up. It allows for better communication. And so we are moving toward that model of having the primary attendees be in person and the rest of the public zooming in for now. So that is what we're looking at. That's not an official policy that's been adopted yet. but we're in that transition.
Great, thanks. Bode, what's your thoughts?
You know, I think it's council. It's obviously a council decision based on input from our Uray County health official and other staff, kind of paying attention to where the governor's orders are. My other municipal clients are meeting in person, with all but Paonia having a kind of remote attendance option. And in Paonia, the meetings are live streamed via YouTube, but there's just not the technology to kind of have the hybrid approach. So.
Okay, that's helpful. We're fortunate to have a pretty good sized community center room to meet in. So I feel like I'd be comfortable going back in person next month, at least on a trial basis. Again, wait and see on how the numbers go. We may have to revisit that if things change, but hopefully they won't. What's everybody else think?
I remember when Uray tried to go back in person at an earlier point in the pandemic, there was some dislike from the public about them going back to being masked and not seeing facial expressions. Do we think people are used to masks enough at this point that they'll be okay with that switch versus seeing me on this box?
That's a good question. And then, of course, the next question is, if we're all vaccinated, do we need to be masked? CDC says no, but I suppose if we're having people in the audience and we don't know whether they've been vaccinated or not, we probably should be wearing masks. It's never easy, is it?
I think we must wear masks in terms of setting that precedent of like, this is what we need to be doing.
Being good role models.
Yeah.
You can see that.
Plus you can acquire that and take it home with you, even if we're vaccinated.
Right.
Right.
Well, that's a good point, Beth. I do remember that was the issue, is that people.
I was just reminded of it on a Silverton message board. People were saying it was harder to follow with counselors in person wearing masks on video. Like they were having trouble following. But
what if we were assured that everyone on council was vaccinated and we did not allow the public in? They could still Zoom the meeting, essentially, and still give them that access, direct live access, but not create a bigger environment than what we have to deal with right away. And as we get more comfortable, we could look to bring the public back in as well.
And I'm just curious, are you saying we do that so that we don't have to wear masks, or we'd still wear masks?
To not have to wear masks, yes.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
What if we wore masks except for when we're speaking? Just like you're at a restaurant, when you're eating, you take a mask off.
I mean, I feel like you're going one or the other. You're not, if you're speaking, that's when you're most projecting things. I think I'm comfortable with following CDC recommendations if everyone in the room is vaccinated. I just thought we should consider being role models on that respect. But if that kind of ameliorates the public's concern and it meets CDC guidelines, then I think that's also okay.
If I may, real quick, and
go ahead.
I bet a pretty penny Jake's going to say the same thing. Public Health Order number 11, I think, dictates it doesn't. Public Health Order number 11 doesn't differentiate between folks who are vaccinated and aren't, and I believe it sets forth that everyone has to wear masks in all indoor settings, something to that effect. I don't have it memorized. So I wonder, I really wish Tanner was still here, but Jake, would you mind talking to that? Am I off base?
No, Preston, you're entirely on base. And actually the governor's order, so the Uray County Public Health Order filled gaps from the governor's order, but even in counties in green status, government offices, schools, a whole plethora of situations, the governor of the state of Colorado is still requiring wearing masks. And what the county public health order does is fill in those gaps just so there's less certainty. So all
all government offices, and it applies more to the county since the county is an extension of the state and the town is an independent municipality. But the state mask order does say that local government buildings still need to have mask wearing even in status green, and it does not specify whether you're vaccinated or not.
Well, what if we tried going back in person masked and getting the feedback from the public, and if it's problematic, we can go back to this format until such time that it's okay to be unmasked?
My recommendation on that is that you do some pretty thorough testing with your IT department, and make sure that you have good microphones. The video can be a whatever webcam, but using like a conference speakerphone isn't great. If you get like the proper shotgun mic and have someone who has a little bit of sound recording experience, that is the biggest key part. And so I think it would be worthwhile if you got people into the space. Maybe you don't have to get the whole council together, but get one or two people in there and do a test, set up a blank Zoom and talk from different points in the room, and make sure that you're capturing clear, loud audio. That's what's most important.
I agree. And we have microphones, but unfortunately they're like vocal mics, like musicians use. They're not shotgun mics, which we basically, we could test it out. If we adjusted our little soundboard appropriately, I think it could work. What staff think about that?
Yeah, we can certainly give that a go. We don't have a formal IT department, but we can enlist our IT services company. And then I think it would behoove us to reach out to Jeff Bacchus, probably, right, Jake, to maybe enlist his help on how you guys went about it for that meeting. I heard you kind of give that rundown, but we'll need to purchase some additional equipment, I think, to make it work. But just to recap what I heard, and I think it was what Beth said, council meet in person next month with masks, allowing the public to attend virtually, right? Okay.
That everybody's consensus?
Yep. I would love to see a bit of a hybrid model for those times when I have to travel. But that's just me being selfish. But yeah, I'm all for and support meeting in person and seeing everybody face to face.
Okay. Yeah, at some point you're gonna have to stop traveling.
I agree 100%. I agree 100%.
All right, is that enough on that item, Preston?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. All righty, that takes us to town manager report, and then we have an executive session. So everyone's had a chance to read Preston's report and his impressive joke this month. Preston, are there any things you want to highlight, or does anybody have any questions for Preston?
I'll just do my normal thing and highlight a couple things. And thank you for calling my joke impressive. That's the best adjective used yet.
It's a good joke.
For the record, I did call on Bo to do a celebrity joke, and I never heard back. So pretty unfortunate there.
I have one if you guys want it, but I don't want to digress here. So
give it to us.
Absolutely.
No teasing.
What's the difference between accountants and attorneys?
What?
Accountants know they're boring.
That's good.
That's my tax day joke. So
that's a good one. That's a good one.
Thanks, Bo. Cleanup. That's good. Cleanup day event, April 24th. That's a Saturday. It's going to be held in the lot behind the library on Railroad Street this year between 8 a.m. and 1 p.m. There's not going to be electronic recycling. There won't be an electronic recycling component to this event, but Pam was telling me that they're hoping to hold like a standalone electronic recycling event later in the summer, maybe in June.
In June, I confirmed that with the bank myself because I have so much stuff to recycle. They're shooting for June. They haven't found a place for sure yet, but they're planning on it.
So we'll have the roll-offs out there on the 24th, and
yeah. And everybody, tell your friends that it's moved behind the library this year, because I'm concerned that people are going to all drive out to the soccer field and go, "Where is it?"
We've reached out. It went out on the water bills. We've sent it out virtual. It's on Facebook. It's on our website.
We'll still, what we'll want to do is put a sign up at the parking lot by the soccer field, just for those stragglers who didn't pay attention, because there's always a bunch of them.
Don't dump your trash here. Yeah.
And if you have e-waste, you can always send that into the transfer station, the Uray County transfer station at any point. They charge you by the pound. It's on the website, but you can dispose of e-waste properly at the Uray County transfer station right outside of town anytime they're open.
Good to know.
Thanks, Jake. The water meter replacement program, we're in the first year of that program. We've budgeted about $55,000 for 150 meters in MXUs this year. And Randy and Steven and I think Jeff too, to some extent, have motored through all 150 meters. And I think just got that done here maybe yesterday or today. It was impressive, the amount of work they put in to get that done. So kudos to them. I didn't put this in the report, but Randy is actually going to be out for a good portion of the summer. He's having surgery on his shoulder. So if you guys ever see him out and about, wish him good luck on that. We're definitely going to miss him over the summer. He should be able to do some light duty stuff, but yeah, just wish him well in that regard. Also wanted to, I won't highlight everything, but I think another, the American Rescue Plan, which was signed into law last month, I think it is, almost exactly a month ago, trying to keep tabs on the direct aid to, American cities, towns, and villages. The National League of Cities website has a really cool webpage that provides estimations for each municipality in terms of how much they're going to receive. Ridgway's estimated funding allocation is actually on that page. I think there's some cities and towns that don't see their name on there. That would be kind of a bummer. But again, they're just estimations and they're subject to change. And we're still waiting for guidance on eligible expenditures, when, how it's going to work. Is it going to be like the coronavirus relief funds that were doled out and administered and still being administered? But a little, or just north of $200,000 is what our estimated funding allocation is based on the National League of Cities website. So just trying to stay tuned to the Treasury guidance coming out. And I'm sure every other city and town and county across the nation is staying tuned as well. Terry, I'll turn it over to you, but do you want to mention that Earth Day celebration on the 22nd at 11:30?
Sure, and to some extent, it underscores the point you were making earlier, which is we're getting an enormous amount of interest in this because of what you suggested was this pent-up energy. So there is going to be an Earth Day event at the school, at secondary school. At 11:30 is when the EV parade ends, and the 30 minutes of speakers, and there's going to be music, and we're going to turn over the electric Volkswagen to the school, and we've got dignitaries from Tri-State coming. We have the dignitary, the mayor of Ridgway is showing up to speak.
Really?
As well as the Commissioner Neese from Uray County is going to show up to speak. We're going to be handing out living trophies for the county and the town that went totally green. So, oops, I'm not supposed to say that. The kids are hopefully practicing the electric slide. We're going to have, we have one of those tube men, the green tube men that dances, and it's all going to be solar powered. APE, the local solar company, is putting a solar system together to power the speakers and the tube guy. And it's going to be a little bit of a party, but it's going to be from The EV parade is going to swing by the elementary school, so the elementary school kids can wave at all the EVs. There should be about a dozen or more electric vehicles, and they're going to stage themselves, including the bug, at the school and make kind of an EV car show, you know, with the hoods raised so you can look under and say, where's the engine? That kind of thing. And it should be fun. So the speakers go from 11:30 to noon. Then there's an hour of just mingling and music, and the kids, we bought globe beach balls so they can bounce them around like it's in a concert and stuff like that. So if you can show up, it should be a fun, fairly short event to celebrate Earth Day. And all the town and all the councilmen are welcome to come. I think, John, did you actually get an invite finally from the students?
Yep.
Great.
And when's the parade? Does the parade start at the school and end at the school?
Now, the parade's going to start at the library and go to the elementary school and end at the secondary school by about 11:20. So the parade's going to start probably somewhere, you know, just short of 11 o'clock.
Okay.
And I do need to get in touch with Shane and remind him of that, or the Clean Energy Dave Jones, who is in charge of the parade, to see if Shane wants to assign a deputy to lead the parade, or at least, you know, have some form of traffic control. There's only going to be a dozen cars, so it's not going to be too much.
Great.
But it should be fun. So if you guys can show up, come on by. Electric bikes, anything that has to do with beneficial electrification or Earth Day or saving the planet, you know, you can dress up like a tree if you want.
Sounds
Kevin,
good.
you can dress up like a tree. What's that, Jake? Oh, he's shaking something at us.
Oh, that's just the alternatives to single-use plastic is the aluminum single-use. You might be hearing more about these later.
Cool.
Huh. Cool.
Okay.
Yeah, please show up. It should be fun.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it. Anything else? Any questions for Preston or?
One last thing, the youth council, the Ridgway, our youth council is involved, has been involved in the planning of this.
Yep.
Yeah, thanks for that, Terry. Yeah, the last thing I was going to mention, John, was the youth council. Their last meeting of the term will be early next month in May. Well, actually, I'm forgetting now when they set their next meeting for. I'll figure that out.
I think it was the 10th.
The 10th, May 10th. And then a council meeting on May 12th. They will deliver a presentation to you all on May 12th on, you know, kind of what they learned throughout their, you know, several months on, you know, the inaugural Youth Advisory Council. They'll also present a video that they've been making on kind of revolving around renewable energy. So they're looking forward to that. But I didn't have that in the report. Thought I'd mention it.
Thanks. That's great. Anybody else have any questions for Preston on his report or any committee reports?
I did attend the Land and Water Commission meeting last week, and they did have some interesting information that they shared. I'll share with council and Preston and our planners as well. But there was some, one of the things that I wanted to share was that they identified, this is something Planning Commission has been talking about, but they identified a group of plants that are actually designed by the Denver Botanical Society as well as CSU to thrive in this area and not require a lot of water and be annuals. So I think that'd be really good input for some of the stuff that Planning Commission is looking forward to, and just general distribution for people in the area to understand about these and try and incorporate these into their normal planning for gardens, yards, etc. So I'll be sharing that with everybody tomorrow.
Great. I look forward to seeing that.
Another thing, they started construction of the apiary. I was over there checking that out today.
Oh,
So
cool.
that be up and running. They're going to put in 2 fences. One fence is going to be electric, designed to keep the bears out. So we may be attracting bears to the apiary.
Sure.
Yeah.
They're out. They're coming out. There was a story in the E edition of the paper came out, and you're dealing with bears already. Anybody else before we have an executive session to finish up with? And is there anything else we need to do before that?
No, sir.
Okay, well, hearing none, Bill, can we have the citation for the executive session?
Yeah, great. Thank you, Mayor. If we could get an executive session pursuant to 24-6-4024B for the purposes of receiving legal, 4024E for the purposes of determining positions that for relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations, developing strategy for negotiators, and instructing negotiators concerning the Riverfront Village PUD.
Someone want to say so moved?
So moved.
Need a second?
I'll second it.
Motion, just to remind everybody, I can't make motions or seconds. So Terry made the motion, Beth seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Farrelly.
Aye.
Grambly.
Aye.
Lakin.
Aye.
Meyer. Is he there?
He's muted.
Russ, you there?
Going to get his top hat.
We could probably,
Not the present. That's
we
fine.
could, yeah, we could probably go on without him.
Skylar.
Aye.
Okay, passes with 4 aye votes and 1 missing vote, I guess. There was
Well,
Russ.
I'm just going to note that he's not at the meeting.
He just got back on.
Oh, okay, there we go.
You're muted. You're muted, Russ.
Okay, I'm back. I'll vote aye to move into executive session.
Okay, thank you. All right, so for everybody who's in the audience, we need to have you sign off now so we can do our executive session. Thanks for coming tonight, and join us again next month.